Morning.
Good morning. It's 9:30 a.m. and today is Thursday, August 27th. My name is Brian Zumwalt. I'm the director of the county's Office of Technology and Innovation. I'll be playing the role today of technology moderator for today's virtual meeting. On the panel with me is Don Crowell from the county attorney's office, who'll be serving as process moderator. Before we start the meeting, I'd like to do a quick roll call and ensure we have adequate communications for each commissioner. And we'll start today with Commissioner Eggers.
Good morning, Brian. I'm here.
Good morning, sir. Commissioner Seal.
Here she comes.
There she is.
Commissioner Seal, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, wonderful. Commissioner Welch.
Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, sir. Commissioner Long. All right, we'll go to Commissioner Peters.
I'm here, Brian.
Thank you. And Commissioner Justice.
Good morning, Brian.
Thank you, sir. And Commissioner Gerard.
Good morning, everyone.
All right, Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Okay, great. All right.
I'm here. Just wanted you to know.
Good morning, Commissioner Long.
Good morning.
Okay. First item on the agenda is citizens to be heard. We will take comment on general issues, but also on the local state of emergency at this time. So, Brian, what do we have?
Thank you,
Mr.
Madam.
Gerard, would you like me to make an opening statement regarding the property you and I talked about, or you want me to wait?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and do that?
And the reason I wanted to make an opening statement, so there's a lot of confusion and questions regarding the newspaper article that came out regarding the Douglas Hackworth property. So I'd just like to make an opening statement. First off, we appreciate all the correspondence that we received regarding this property. It's important to develop objective criteria when we're evaluating potential land purchases. These are taxpayer funds, and we want to make sure that they're spent in the most judicious manner possible. The penny for Pinellas funds that was just approved a couple of years ago, but actually didn't begin collecting until January of this year. They weren't available until January of this year. We earmarked $15 million over the next decade for these land purchases. So obviously, considering the amount of funds that we have, we have a lot of potential land purchases. We have to be real cognizant and make sure we make the right decisions. The criteria we look for, as such as environmental factors, open space, and recreational opportunities, those are all factors in an objective criteria that was developed this last fall. We were working, by the way, with the estate, and they knew we were trying to develop this criteria to be able to evaluate all of the different potential property purchases that would be looked at. But, in doing that, we also looked at the communities throughout Pinellas County. We have areas where there aren't open space or recreational opportunities. And so we want to make sure that we provide balance and we have funding available when those opportunities present themselves to go on balance, provide an overall countywide strategy. And that requires a careful evaluation countywide of all of our needs. Pinellas County, along with the city of Dunedin, approached the potential acquisition of this as a joint venture. We did this, and we were in contact with the estate representatives. And again, last fall, I received a letter from the estate representative saying that they knew we were going through this evaluation process. As earlier this spring, we then met with the city officials and talked about their needs, what we would like to see, and approached it as a joint venture. But we were trying to come up with something that would be affordable to the taxpayers also. So at that time, we got an evaluation of the property, an appraisal. But again, some pieces of this do take time. We do have an interest. This property, it meets a lot of the criteria that I just outlined above. Dunedin had expressed an interest in expanding their cemetery and developing athletic fields. We had an interest in environmental preservation of sand pine and rosemary scrub, and also access to the lake. So there were a number of things that come about. As a result of that, we pitched an idea of a partial portion of the property, and then letting the remaining part develop. And then it was recently that we learned through the newspaper that, in fact, the property had been under contract with Pulte Homes. We then reached out to Mr. Hightower, who I received correspondence from, to be the representative of the estate, and we asked for a meeting with him. This afternoon, Jennifer Bramley and myself have a meeting with Mr. Hightower to discuss this property. It is still our hope and our desire that we can work with the estate representatives to find a solution that will preserve this pristine land for future generations. I will continue to inform you as we make progress, or if we make progress in this development. So hopefully that clarifies some of the questions that we know have come in. Why didn't you reach out? Well, maybe this clarifies some of that prior to public comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Brian, what do we have?
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, if there are any members of the public that wish to be heard, please hit *9 if you're on the telephone, or raise your hand virtually in the Zoom meeting. And Madam Chair, it appears we have 13 or so people that wish to be heard this morning. We'll start with Mr. Dave Waddell. Mr. Waddell, welcome back to the commission. If you'll go ahead and unmute and give us your spelling and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes to address the board.
Good morning, folks. Honorable Chair, Board of County Commissioners and staff. Sheriff Bob, it's really great to see you sitting there, pal. You're doing a great job, and you look great. Been praying for you, and I think we ought to also take a moment and pray for all of the people that are impacted by Laura. Boy, we dodged a bullet, didn't we? Anyhow, I'm glad to see that you're all well and here with us today. It's interesting that we open with a statement from Mr. Burton, our county administrator. I've been involved and sat on the Parks Board in the county here for a number of years, and about 1.5 years ago, we proposed setting aside 250 environmentally sensitive lands and acreage. We've got 22 acres combined out back with the 8 acres that the county already owns. This acts as a buffer for not only wind and water, but I recently learned that there was a developer interested and went in and did soil samples without first speaking with the county, brought a grader, a backhoe in, took down very many invasive, but also took down some of our natural foliage back there, and there were no repercussions. I was actually speaking with Brian Lowek yesterday, and staff time is already limited, so there's no sense in going back and digging up that grave. I'm going to let that one lie. But now is an opportunity. I think we're going to learn something very valuable from this experience, that it isn't only penny money that is available. There are a number of other sources of funding, one of which is the Trust for Public Lands. And it's paramount in our county that the first built out county, by the way, in the state, that we set aside lands, and we ranked on this particular parcel. And I'm not going to mention any names here because I don't want the word out. I've already got another developer back here sniffing around. So it's time to act, and it's been 1.5 years. So if we could make this an agenda item in the next week or two, so we could be updated on this instead of reading it in the newspaper. I know Tracy McManus personally, and she wrote this article. And when I read it, well, thank God I had a cup of coffee in me and was having a good day, because I was really disturbed to see that this slipped through our fingers, especially because it was adjacent to water. Well, this one actually that I'm speaking of, 22 acres, sits right on Old Tampa Bay. And we lose this. This is our only buffer. During Hurricane Irma, we had 11 trees go down in our neighborhood. We clocked 90-mile-an-hour winds. Had it not been for this tree line and that mangrove out there, we would have been inundated. I am sure that we would have probably had a loss of property, but not life.
Mr. Waddell, your time has expired.
I'd like, please, let's make this an agenda item. It's 1.5 years. A lot of staff time's been spent. And like I said, I was shocked to have to read this in the paper. So if we could make this an agenda item in the next week or two, I'd very much appreciate it. Also, real quick,
Thank you, Dave.
I raised my hand.
Madam
you,
Chair.
Dave.
Okay, thank you. Madam Chair, our next speaker is Karen Mullins. Ms. Mullins, if you go ahead and unmute yourself and give us your first, last name, spelling, and address, you'll have 3 minutes to address the board.
Good morning, Commission. Karen Mullins, Mullins, Dunedin, Florida. I want to talk to you about the Gladys Douglas property. It is well known that Gladys's wishes for the land were to be saved from the development held for conservation. It is home to the endangered gopher tortoise and species of plants not found anywhere else in the county. Sadly, the property is currently under, like Brian said, a 60-day contract with the developer. I do not know when the 60 days expires, so time is of the essence. My ask of you, our county representatives, is to ask the property owners to get permission from the buyers to allow them to continue to negotiate with the city of Dunedin and the county for the purpose of purchasing the property. I am looking forward to hearing about the outcome of today's meeting with Dunedin City Manager, Jennifer Bramley. My second item is the sheriff's election campaign. I'm ready to request that the commission move to require the current sheriff to cease all PSAs that include a picture, video, likeness, voice of the current sheriff. As the county administrator said this morning, we are cognizant of the spending of taxpayers' money. The PSAs only began a few months ago and are running right up until the November election. These PSAs are campaigning, and the video production along with the airtime needs to be charged to the sheriff's campaign fund. As for face masks are a necessity at this point. Please do not let up on the mandate. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, our next speaker is David Happ. David, if you'll go ahead and unmute yourself and give us your spelling and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes to address the board. David, can you hear me?
Did I get in now, Brian?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. David Happy, 903 Cypress Cove Way in Tarpon Springs, calling regarding the local state of emergency. For those that are listening, it appears that we're going to have to fight our way out of this. We're going to need to use the legal system, the ballot box, and civil disobedience to fight our way out from underneath what we allowed to happen here since we were asleep. Wake up, Pinellas, and join us as the movement to restore sanity has begun and continues to gather the silenced majority. Commissioners, we're putting you on notice. For the past several weeks, we've watched you roll your eyes at our residents, ignore a simple question that I've posed for the last 2 weeks in writing in advance of your meeting, simply asking what the specific criteria was for you to repeal your controversial mask ordinance. The question is, what is the criteria you had in mind to repeal the mask ordinance when you required our residents, healthy residents, to wear a medical device without a medical reason? You've refused to answer my question, and we've had enough of your smirking, smug dismissal of our legitimate demands. You do not represent us. If I can't get criteria from you that you would deem acceptable to repeal your own ordinance, that shows us you either put this in place without a specific, quantifiable, measurable objective, or this is political. Either way, if you refuse for a third week to tell us what criteria you are going to use to repeal your mandate, I will seek judicial intervention. The county attorney told the judge last Friday that the measure was temporary. I'm simply asking for you to clarify what temporary means. And if you refuse to do so, I'll ask the same judge to intervene. Commissioner Welch indicated we would know it was time to repeal the mask decree, and I paraphrase his response, when the experts the county is paying to advise us on COVID-19 decide to tell us they're okay with no longer being consulted. When the experts tell us to stop paying them, that's the answer. What government program ever goes away voluntarily? Your sign that COVID-19 is waning is not using statistics, but simply using Dr. Cho to tell you when he feels like he can stop consulting you. We've had enough. I, for one, will no longer be abiding by your decree with your ambiguous endgame. I'm not the only one, despite what Commissioner Welch incorrectly assumed a few weeks back, that our compliance means agreement. You're forcing our hand to act in our best interests, as you clearly are not. Please answer my simple question. You're going to cost taxpayers money, as I plan to have a judge require you to do what you should be doing in the interest of fairness, honesty, and full sunshine disclosure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, our next speaker is Dawn. I don't have a last name, so Donna, if you go ahead and unmute yourself and give us your first, last name, spelling, and address, you'll have 3 minutes to address the board.
Did my mute, am I unmuted?
You're good.
Okay, I just want to make sure I hit it right.
No worries.
Dawn Bowler, B as in boy, OHLER, 6678 54th Avenue North. This is on the local state of emergency. Most human contact has been severed with social distancing, and massive eliminated the visual giving and receiving of emotional expression, creating a sense of social isolation, and there is a cost. According to American Civil Liberties Union of Washington, humans are inherently social animals. We crave community and connection with others. Being deprived of it can anguish even the most independent individuals. American Psychological Association psychologist Louise Hockley stated, isolation can wreak havoc on an individual's physical, mental, and cognitive health, and points to evidence linking perceived social isolation with adverse health consequences, including depression, poor sleep quality, impaired executive function, accelerated cognitive decline, poor cardiovascular function, and impaired immunity at every stage of life. In 2019, public health researcher Cassandra Alcaraz analyzed data from more than 580,000 adults, finding that social isolation increases the risk of premature death from every cause for every race. I quote, loneliness, it seems, can lead to long-term fight or flight stress signaling, which negatively affects immune system functioning. Simply put, people who feel lonely have less immunity and more inflammation than people who don't. Further research has shown that chronic social isolation also increases issues like anxiety and substance abuse, obesity, as well as chronic conditions like high blood pressure, heart disease, and diabetes, as well as raises the risk of dementia in older adults. I'm also now wondering if this persistent state of danger is also creating a response of agoraphobia. It was reported on the news this week that last month alone, statewide, we had over 60,000 drug overdoses on top of an increase in suicides. 484% more overdosed to those that have supposedly died of COVID. Commissioner Long, you stated last week, look around the world. Pinellas County doesn't come close to being a reflection of the world, but saying such is a typical fear tactic and irresponsible. Dr. Cho, as one originally hired for behavioral health, are you monitoring these effects or just planning to, as I love how Commissioner Peters has said, kick it down the road? Finally, our numbers do not justify these continued measures, but the mental and physical results prove every day that these measures are more destructive than the virus. This is an effect you claim no intent, but knowledge forms intent, and not correcting the cause falls under vicarious liability as well as gross negligence. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, next speaker is Ms. Barbara Walker. Barbara, if you go ahead and unmute yourself and give us your spelling and address just for the record, and we'll have 3 minutes to address the board.
Barbara Walker, BarbaraWalker at 3019 Bradford Circle in Palm Harbor.
Thank you.
Good morning. I hope you are all well. I am glad that you're taking such a great approach to the property in Dunedin there at Jerry Lake. I just wanted to say that I'm in support of what your opening statement was as an approach to preserving that property. I think that you all have done a really great job on preservation here in Pinellas. As far as the local state of emergency, please go ahead and extend that. That's my little vote. And please keep the mask mandate in force. That's about it for me. Hope you all have a great day.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, just for the record, we have 11 remaining speakers. Our next speaker is Yvette Gage. If you'll go ahead and unmute yourself, give us your spelling, spelling, first name, last name, and address. We'll have 3 minutes to address the board.
Yvette Gaugh, and that's Gaugh, St. Pete Beach, Florida. Commissioner, I respectfully appeal to your logic, critical thinking, and common sense today. You don't just represent those who voted for you, but everyone in Pinellas County, and you are compensated very nicely and are still getting paid, though many are not in this community. Remember, because of the emergency order that you guys have extended, it has affected all of us, not only financially, but emotionally, with long-term and lasting effects on both. Allow truth and facts to impact your decision. And please listen to these numbers from the CDC, straight from their website. They might be a little bit off because it was a few days ago. We are down 90% in our mortality rates. We have 22 million people that live in the state of Florida. In total, we have 131,000 plus deaths, and that's not of COVID. That is of cancer, heart disease, diabetes, overdoses. Of that percentage, of 131,000, only 7% represent the deaths with COVID, not of COVID, and that's 9,200 plus deaths. So why aren't we addressing that? The mortality rate, the average mortality rate is 78 years old in total in the United States. The average mortality rate for COVID is 78 years young, okay? That is cases. Let's talk about cases. I don't really care about them. You know why? First of all, we've been seeing news reports all over the country. Why should we all? Because they're misreporting the data, and they're being sent people are being sent positive results for tests that they didn't even take, i.e. the 77 NFL football players who got positive tests and they were actually negative. Y'all are trying to stop nature. It's called herd immunity. It happens with every virus. 80% of those who get it, quote unquote corona, have no symptoms. 18% are mild and 2% or less are serious or to death. People die, and they're dying with one or more comorbidities, the ones that do pass. You're not going to prevent it no matter what orders you put in place. It is very unfortunate that in your literature and on your website, your directives are wash your hands, be 6 feet apart, wear a mask. The hypocrisy in this astounds me. As a 54-year-old mom and athlete, I work very hard on building my immune system, which is what we should be doing to fight off any virus, to make it less dangerous if or when we get it. If I see one more person take off their mask and smoke a cigarette, or take off their mask so they can eat their fried chicken and their sugary sweet snacks, or an individual walking down the street or in a car with their mask on, or walking on the beach or riding a bike, that is actually dangerous. I'm going to lose my mind. That is absolutely 100% insane. And what has happened to common sense and our critical thinking skills? This emergency order is doing a disservice to the citizens of Pinellas County. And in fact, these masks are creating more illness, anxiety, and anger, and continued fear. Businesses are still suffering because people are afraid.
Scott, I'm sorry, your time has expired.
Please choose whether or not please do not extend this order.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, we have 10 remaining speakers. Our next speaker is Nicole Matthews. Ms. Matthews, if you go ahead and unmute yourself and give us your spelling and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes.
Good morning. The spelling Nichole Mattheus. I'm at 1655 Narnia Court in Dunedin, Florida.
Thank you.
First, I would like to say that I would like to extend the state of emergency and keep the mask ordinance. The second piece I would like to talk about is the Gladys Douglas Hackworth property. I'm happy to hear that you do have a meeting this afternoon to discuss this further. But I did want to go on record reiterating the fact of how important this property is, not only for the environmental factors that you've mentioned briefly with the gopher tortoise and the extremely rare rosemary scrub, but also for the importance of the historical factor of the property to this area. There are several people that grew up going to this area and using this piece of property. It would be a great recreation area, and I think it would be a great addition to Dunedin and Pinellas County. Also, a kind of side note on it, I noticed in the tax rolls that part of the property is listed under cemetery. So I would like that addressed. I don't know if that's going to be voted to be changed from cemetery to developmental property and when that would be. This is my first meeting, so I'm kind of navigating as I go. So if that could be addressed, that would be great. And then I would also like this to be added as an agenda item. I'm very surprised to have learned about this from a newspaper article, that this hasn't been made an agenda item in the past. And if there could be further information about the other properties that have been mentioned several times in the article and by the administrator, what those other properties are, if something could be released so we could further investigate those properties to evaluate the environmental importance, because it would be would be crucial to pick the most environmentally vital property in Pinellas County. If we do have, I was surprised at the budget, that is a large budget that we have, $15 million. You know, I know that it has to last a long way, but it's going to be important to pick the most important, most vital piece of property ecologically. And I understand the recreation side of it, but ecologically, considering the majority of Pinellas is developed. So, and that completes my statement.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, our next speaker is Katherine Smith. Ms. Smith, if you go ahead and unmute yourself and give us your first, last name, spelling, and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes to address the board.
Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay, Kathy, Kathy, Smith, Smith, or Katherine, Kathryn. I live here at 2231 Lark Circle East, Palm Harbor, 32468. I moved here just last year from the Panhandle, where we were so fortunate. We had Eglin Air Force Base, owned so much of the natural land there. We don't have that here. It's on you. I'm sorry. The Florida Land Legacy, the amendment to buy land, that's been taken. Funds have been robbed. There's nobody else that can save us. So I'm really, really counting on you, county commissioners, to buy this land that's been addressed by other speakers. It's no do-over on this. Once that land is gone, it is gone. You cannot undevelop it. I do want to thank you very much for your mask ordinance, and I want to vehemently disagree with the callers before me who said they did not want the mask amendment. I'm going to plead with you to listen to the scientists, listen to the vast majority of scientists and public health officials who are urging mask wearing. Look at Japan, look at their morbidity rates or mortality rates. Look at ours. Please do not let go of the mask ordinance. And I do want to say, I do want to see this acquisition of lands available as agenda items, because look at Laura. I mean, thank God, we're lucky, but it's coming. This is early in the season. I've been a Florida resident over 40 years. Hurricane seasons have gotten worse every year. So it's not just that we need it for the prettiness of it or even the land values. We need it for public safety. We need more of these wetlands. We need more of these areas to absorb some of this massive rain and water that comes with these hurricanes, these monster hurricanes that are coming our way. So I want to thank you, and I appreciate your letting me speak. Have a great day. God bless all of you, and I look forward to more of this conversation. And I thank the county commissioner for taking this seriously.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, we have 11 speakers remaining. Our next speaker is on the phone line, last 4 digits 6534. If you'll go ahead and unmute yourself and give us your first, last name, spelling, and address, you'll have 3 minutes to address the board. And you'll have to unmute yourself, whoever's calling in on the phone line. Hello?
Brian, is there a dial they need to push to unmute themselves, or?
It looks like they just did.
Hi, my name is Courtney Murphy. Sorry, it's my first dial in.
It's okay.
Courtney, and then last name Murphy. I live at 1354 Azalea Drive, Unit 3, Dunedin, Florida, 34698.
Thank you.
I just wanted to thank you guys for your support in preserving the Douglas property. And bring up some points that I don't think other speakers have brought up. Yes, we are the densest county in Florida. Yes, this property obviously needs to be preserved for environmental and social reasons, like the caller before me said. With climate change, we do need to preserve more of our natural land as a buffer. I would also like to highlight the fact that as the world becomes more technologically inclined, and as Gen Z and even the generations before them have such a digital connection, that having this nature will become kind of an escape for them, and being able to slow down, being able to lessen their anxiety. There's scientific evidence that proves that when you go out in nature, your cortisol is lowered. It helps in fighting anxiety and depression. So just wanted to add that in because I don't think that's something that is considered. And I know this area is still growing. So we are the densest, and we continue to get more dense every year. And that's everything I have for you guys. Just thank you and continue to pursue the money.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, our next speaker is Dave Sillman. Mr. Sillman, let me unmute you here. Sorry. Mr. Sillman, if you go ahead and unmute yourself and give us your first, last name, spelling, and address, you'll have 3 minutes to address the board.
Good morning. Thank you. Dave Sillman here, DAVESILLMAN, 1607 Stonehaven Way in Tarpon Springs. Thank you all for your efforts to save the Douglas property. That's what I wanted to comment on today. And I just wanted a little food for thought. Please do not underestimate the economic services that green space provides. Untouched property like this provides flood and stormwater protection, water filtration, CO2 sequestration, wildlife habitat, recreation, topsoil conservation. These are real economic services that are often overlooked. I've read analysis that shows that green space raises the property values in surrounding neighborhoods for blocks and blocks out. And while I'm sure everybody is perhaps looking at the new tax revenue from new homes being built in this area, it could be blunted by the lower property value, lowering of property values from having lost this space. I realize budgets are tight these days, but there are ways to finance these purchases too. And the debt service can often be paid by increased property values. Our natural beauty is our economic golden goose, and it's sometimes, it gets lost. And please, consider that in all your decisions. And past that, I would only ask that you please extend the mask order, despite the impassioned pleas of some of these callers. The science is crystal clear. Masks work. We can't get the economy reopened until we fix get the COVID situation under control. And I would only ask that ultimately just listen to every doctor and nurse who's working in our hospitals right now, getting hammered. Everyone without exception are begging us to wear masks, social distance, wash our hands. These simple steps. These are barely sacrifices, especially when you consider the sacrifices America made in World War II. Those were real sacrifices. We're being asked to wear masks. It's ridiculous, and people are being misinformed and emotionally incited. And just please follow science, logic, and fact. And thank you. That's all.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, our next speaker is Scott Papes. Mr. Papes, if you'll go ahead and unmute yourself and give us your spelling and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes to address the board.
Yeah, good morning. Scott Papes, Papes, 4901 Quill Court, Palm Harbor. I'm calling on behalf of the Palm Harbor Community Services Agency, FICSA. I'm the vice chair there. I think there were a couple comments last week regarding some of the penny money and how the penny projects were projected out and put together. Since then, we had a few projects that were on there, and one of them in particular just dropped off on the new, the CIP budgeting program that has been put forward for the county to use. Commissioner Eggers and Nancy McKibben have spent some time with me and explained how the new system works. And I will say, I think it makes a lot more sense than the old system, where when we applied for money for penny, apparently it kind of got thrown up there on a wish list placeholder, but there wasn't a large amount of vetting done. And if my understanding is correct, the new CIP system will allow us, once we've made it past the hurdles to get onto the project list, that it's much more likely that we'll actually receive those funds. So I think it makes sense, and it means a lot that we can, I think, move a little bit more forward, feeling a little more secure that we'll get the money. With that being said, the issues that arose were there were two projects on there, one for the Palm Harbor Community Services Agency and one for the East Lake Library. A couple expansions for the CSA group was also to be a dual purpose emergency shelter. Those are still on there. I want to mention those because I just to bring your attention to it when it comes up. You're actually going through the budget and looking at those to, don't forget us. And those are needed services that we could use up here in the unincorporated North County area. The third one that fell off the list totally with this new system was for the East Lake Rec programs. And we are right now, we don't really have an office. It's an old trailer that our director works out of with no bathroom. He has to use the other bathrooms around the facility for the sports programs. They're old fields, they're old buildings. And we were looking for some money to build a new office meeting area, update the restrooms, ADA compliant, and concession area up there. And that was very important to us. And we will be resubmitting through the new CIP project to get that hopefully in front of you for the upcoming budgetary time. And I just, again, want to put in the forefront of your mind that it is important to us. There's a lot of voters up here in North Unincorporated Pinellas. There's a lot of tax dollars. We appreciate all you do. We understand that monies need to be spent for the infrastructure and other important facilities, but we ask that you don't forget in considering some of our needs up here for our community. People like to have nice places to go and use their recreation time and nice.
Mr. Papes, your time has expired, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Madam Chair, our next speaker is on the phone line, last four digits 2466. If you'll go ahead and unmute yourself, give us your first, last name, spelling, and address, and you'll have 3 minutes to address the board. Last four digits 2466. I'll have to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. My name is Yvonne Maxwell. I live on El Camino Court in Largo, Florida. And I think this local state of emergency, the restrictions are too severe and unwarranted. More specifically, the mask mandates. They're unnecessary and they are causing more harm than good. The severity of this so-called pandemic no longer even meets the requirements for a pandemic. It has been decreased, the severity to that point. The death rates are down. They're no worse than the annual flu. I've had physicians who are knowledgeable about treating viruses actually admit to me in person that the mask does nothing to prevent the transference or contraction of a virus. There's nothing going on here but a political agenda that's financially benefiting any medical facilities, and any medical professional who knows anything about virology knows that a mask, a piece of fabric, is not going to stop a virus from being contracted. It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. You can Google this. This is not harmful knowledge to figure out for yourself. But more specifically, I am personally affected by this. I am on disability. I have a medical claim on continuing, and I can't see my doctor because you guys are fining my doctor $500 if I go see my doctor and can't wear a mask. I have a medical condition. I cannot put a mask on my face. I don't need to tell you my medical reasons why. And the ADA protects me from trying to tell you guys why I can't wear a mask, but I cannot. And there is no medical exceptions in your mask mandate anywhere. And you don't even have foresight for that. You guys are not representing the majority of the people. And, I literally have lost my doctor. They won't even see me anymore because of the fine that you guys are implementing on them. You have really hurt me to an extent that I can't even describe to you. And let me get you to understand something here. The bottom line is, if you guys are not willing to represent the majority of your constituents that do not want this mask mandate because it does nothing to prevent the transmission of a virus, we are in the process of meeting to complete recalls on each one of you that are continuing to force this state of emergency, especially this mask mandate, because we've had enough of you guys doing this for us. Really, we are extremely upset with you guys. You're not listening to the majority. The masks don't work. It's enough. It's enough. I can't get my medical treatment, and I'm on disability, and I need it because you guys haven't even provided for a medical exception. This mandate is BS. And Anthony Sabatini is doing his best to try to help us, the actual people that you're supposed to be representing.
Ma'am, your time has
either
expired.
Get it together, release this state of emergency, specifically the mask mandate, so that
Thank you.
Madam Chair, our next speaker is Aiden Barnes. Mr. Barnes, if you go ahead and unmute yourself and give us your first, last name, spelling, and address, you'll have 3 minutes to address the board.
Hi there. I've called in once before. I'm Mrs. Aiden Barnes. My name is Aden. And my address is 10240 127th Avenue in Largo. And I have some comments on Agenda 2. Members of the board, please do not renew the face covering ordinance. It has now been over 2 months since the original order took effect. I just would like to know how long this order must stay in place. The reasoning behind the order was to prevent hospitals from being overwhelmed. Yet according to the COVID website for Pinellas, hospital bed availability is currently over 21%. I was wondering, what does that percentage have to be in order for the mass order to end? The people in this county do have a right to know what specific criteria you are waiting for to repeal the mask ordinance. Is it hospital bed availability or a combination of factors such as low rates of positive cases in the county? The number of cases in Pinellas have continued to drop for weeks now. I've been monitoring covid19.pinellascounty.org. Last week, the board mentioned waiting to see what will happen when schools reopen. Now that schools have reopened, what factors specifically are you looking for to rescind the mask order? The majority of residents in this county choose to wear masks of their own free will. The vulnerable in our population, such as those who are elderly or with pre-existing conditions, can take advantage of early morning shopping hours or frequent the many businesses who do mandate masks as part of their own store policies. Even among Pinellas residents who advocate for masks are those who respect personal freedoms and constitutional rights above all else. As a healthy individual, I would like this personal freedom back, as do the others who have called in today. Please do not renew the mask mandate and give Pinellas County citizens the opportunity to act responsibly. The vast majority of our community will stay home when sick in order to protect the vulnerable in our population. Please give people that choice. And according to graphs and data from the CDC website, deaths have plummeted and have continued on a downward trend for months since April. We are now into almost September and the numbers still continue on a downward trend. You may be asking, but what about the asymptomatic? There are several research-based studies indicating that asymptomatic carriers do not spread this virus. The following is from medrxiv.org. In the analysis of 4 studies that estimated asymptomatic transmission rates, the highest estimate was a transmission rate of 2.2%, suggesting asymptomatic spread is unlikely to be a major driver of clusters or community transmission of infection. Even Dr. Kirkhope from WHO stated, when health officials review cases that are initially reported to be asymptomatic, we find out that many have really mild disease. There are some infected people who are truly asymptomatic, but countries that are doing detailed contact tracing are not finding secondary transmission onward. It's very rare.
Your time has expired, ma'am.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, our next speaker is Ali Messina. Ms. Messina, if you'll go ahead and unmute yourself and give us your spelling and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes to address the board.
Hi, hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Allison Messina, ALLISON MESSINA, and I'm an infectious diseases physician. I just want to commend everyone here on instituting the mask mandate, and I think it should continue. It is absolutely critically important to keeping our numbers down, keeping our residents safe. And, you know, the bottom line is that we do know that it prevents transmission, and we do know that it keeps communities going. It allows us to go out in public. It allows us to go to school safely. It allows us to do our job safely. I think that, you know, what we'll see is even if the rates are low, if we repeal that mask mandate, we're going to see those rates go right back up again. So, you know, on behalf of myself and all of my colleagues in infectious disease, please, please, please continue the mask ordinance. It's really doing its job. We're doing a great job, and we're keeping everyone safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, for the record, there are 6 remaining speakers. Our next speaker is
Brian, I'm
Yes,
going
ma'am.
to say that we'll cut off new speakers after 10:30.
Okay,
Thank you.
that sounds good. Our next speaker is Diane Lebedev. Diane, if you go ahead and unmute yourself and give us your spelling and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes to address the board. Diane, you'll have to unmute on your side. Hello, Diane. You'll have to unmute yourself on the Zoom meeting. And Madam Chair, she's staying muted, so I'm not sure what. We'll go to the next speaker and maybe we can try to get her at the end here. Our next speaker is Lindsay Grove. Lindsay, if you'll go ahead and unmute yourself and give us your spelling and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes to address the board.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Grove. It's Linsey, last name Grove, Grove. I'm located at 835 9th Avenue South, St. Petersburg, 33701. First, I would just like to thank all of you for being patient. I know we've had a lot of people on the call and a lot of really impassioned citizens really trying to make their voice heard. It's not an easy job being a county commissioner and, you know, getting a lot of criticism. So I thank you all for your patience and, you know, doing your due diligence as public servants. I would also like to say that I definitely support trying to preserve what we can of the Douglas property. It's critically important that we do what we can to keep green spaces in Pinellas. And I know that this is really tough given the fact that we're in the middle of an affordable housing crisis. You know, there are lots of, you know, developers looking at property all over this county since lots of people want to move here and, you know, trying to balance that with, you know, ensuring that we're preserving the environment as well as, you know, doing what we can to mitigate the effects of climate change. It's a lot of stuff to try and juggle. And so, you know, I know that this is really tough, but we really do need these green spaces to help us as we really try to understand and think about all different types of strategies, you know, to really mitigate the effects of climate change. So please, I implore you to consider ways of preserving as much as you can of the Douglas property, especially since that was her wish. The second thing is please extend the emergency order for mask wearing. You know, schools started up this week and we will unfortunately start to probably see spread again. You know, I work in the public health sphere and I mean, all of us are looking at not only Pinellas County school districts, but school districts across Florida and in other places. And it's inevitable. I mean, we are going to see spread in both K through 12 and at the college level. So, you know, we have to continue to wear masks. It's just vitally important. It's the, you know, simplest way that we can stop the spread of COVID-19. And it's really a way for people to do what's best for their community. We have to protect people, you know, who are immunocompromised. We have to protect young ones who maybe can't wear masks. You know, it's just vitally important that we have to make these tough decisions. And I know that we've heard a lot of people call in who are really, really upset about mask wearing. And I can understand that. You know, we're dealing with things that, you know, a lot of us have never had to deal with before. But it's, you know, it's the job of our policymakers to make sure that standards are set. And the standard is, according to science, that masks are the best way to prevent the spread of COVID-19.
Ms. Grove, your time has expired, ma'am.
Thank you so much. And I hope you all have a relaxing time after this call is done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, we have 4 remaining speakers. Our next speaker comes in on a Galaxy A11 device. I don't have a name, so if you go ahead and unmute yourself and give us your first, last name, spelling, and address, you'll have 3 minutes to address the board. Hello?
Hi, Karen Marascao. It's Karen Mariscal. I'm at 2071 Lantana Avenue,
Thank you, ma'am.
Clearwater. You got it?
Yeah, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
All right. I read the article on the Douglas property Sunday morning and just cried. This shouldn't be happening. My 18-year-old son died in a car accident on the way to USF band practice September 10, 2014. And though the cemetery has been full for 10 years, Julie, the mayor, had a couple of plots for safekeeping, sold me one from my son, and so he's buried there. I've always loved the Victorian era cemeteries, but never imagined I'd be put in this situation. I lived and raised my 4 kids in Dunedin for 25 years. Finances forced me to 3 houses over the Dunedin line in North Clearwater, what I like to call the Andrew G. Andrews territory, since his brother William homesteaded the north side of Union and Andrew homesteaded the south. The last name's familiar because William died during a storm while he was in his 20s while riding his horse. His father that lived in Virginia paid the Presbyterian Church $200 towards a building fund to build the first Presbyterian church in the cemetery, and it was named Andrews Memorial Church. And it was actually, a cemetery was already there because the church was built 1878. The first burial out there was in 1875. Yacht club crowd 10 years down the road wanted the church to be downtown. The people from the church and the cemetery disagreed. They built the church anyway, envy won out. The church ended up being moved to a new one built downtown, and this dismantled the one in the cemetery. Cemetery remains. It's the oldest municipal cemetery in Pinellas County. I would suggest everybody to take a walk through there. I've been championing the cemetery for the last 6 years, and we always assumed this property, since the Douglas owned it, you know, that the expansion of the cemetery, and it doesn't need a lot of land, was not going to be a problem. We should be celebrating an expansion and a park-like setting rather than what we're having to fight for now. I received my PSIQ from the State Division of Historical Resources near the end of June, letting me know my application to put the cemetery on the registry has been pre-approved on 2 different criteria. Spent 2 months gathering research, getting ready to write the final paper now. And now I have a threat to the integrity of the cemetery based on this property being sold to developers. I know that Gladys didn't want this to happen. This should have been put in her will. After all, the Douglases profited plenty from homesteading 160 acres, buying another 120 dirt cheap. This land needs to stay in municipal hands. Weathersfield already is encroaching in on the north side. You get to hear people swimming in their pools and barbecues while you mourn. The cemetery was set up in an intentional way and established as a separate from the outside world to encourage an appreciation of nature, continuity of life, in addition to mourning loved ones.
Ma'am, your time has expired.
Thank you so much. I believe in science. Please extend the mask mandate.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, for the record, we have 4 remaining speakers that wish to be heard. Our next speaker is Karen Nacello. Karen, if you'll go ahead and unmute yourself and give us your first, last name, spelling, and address, you'll have 3 minutes to address the board.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Karen Nacello, Karennasello, address 5660 80th Street North, B205 in St. Petersburg.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Thank you all for the opportunity to speak. And I'm, excuse me, just real quick, a point of reference, a 55-year-old healthy person in work as a health and wellness coach. And there's a multitude of comments that have been made today regarding the mask wearing and the mandate. And there seems to be, as many people have mentioned, conflicting information about the science. However, there has been a multitude of scientific studies that have proven the ineffectiveness of the masks and the fact that the viral particles are smaller than the smallest particle in the mask. I mean, this has been over and over and over presented in multiple professional scientific interviews and with doctors and other scientists. In fact, there's 500 doctors in Germany, Spain, and thousands from the U.S. that have provided this data. But what I really want to say is that we've got medical professionals, the 2 here that are part of the Pinellas County Commission, and the few that have been on the call here. And the message seems to be the only thing people can do is wear a mask, stay inside, and wash your hands, as if people are newborn babies with no immune system. And here was an opportunity. I was on the call 2 months ago, with all due respect, again, the medical professionals here with Pinellas County had the opportunity to empower people and share information such as support and boost your immune system. How do we do that? Well, we take at least 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C every day. We take vitamin D, we take zinc, we get sunshine, we get back into nature, we breathe fresh air, we exercise, we eat healthy foods, we de-stress. This message needs to be, if you're still going to say, hey, everyone wear masks, well, what else can you do? Well, there's all of these other things that we can do to support our immune system. And that message it should be out there as strongly as the other message that you're choosing to portray. I mean, and it's also, as an example, I believe the figures are 1.5 million people died of tuberculosis, whatever it was last year. There was no shutdown of the economy. There was no mask wearing. There was no, pandemic. And those numbers are far exceeding, obviously, what has existed with this current situation. And there's a multitude of sites. I think people are also, they're watching mainstream media television, and it's controlled and manipulated and misinformation, and there's political agendas. So people need to use their own critical thinking and take responsibility.
Nacello, your time has expired, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Madam Chair, we have 3 remaining speakers. Our next speaker is Aurora Quel. Aurora, if you go ahead and unmute yourself and give us your spelling and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes to address the board.
Hi, thank you. First time caller. Good morning, everybody. Aurora Quel, A-U-R-O-R-A, last name Q-U-I-E-L. I'm at 1536 Highland Park Drive in Clearwater. And I'll be very brief. I just kind of wanted to express to please not give up on the Gladys Douglas land. I think that it is unacceptable to find out about these things through posts and news articles. I only just started learning about this, and I know many people who are pretty upset about it. I am so proud to live in Pinellas, mostly because of the efforts around Green Pinellas and the parks that we have, the accesses versus, Hillsborough County. Please don't give up on this. I know it's been a long time, but please don't do it. The next thing I wanted to talk about was that, like I said, we, the residents, we love this. We're the taxpayers, and we want to help you make these decisions. So if you could have some transparency along, what lands are being considered for purchase and for conservation and preservation, that would be really great, because we want to participate and we want to help you make these decisions. Also, alongside that, can the county do anything to encourage developers to purchase things like, or lands like, dead strip malls? We have so many eyesores along US 19 and things that could be reimagined and rebuilt instead of tapping into essential green space. And also, I'm still, I guess, I don't know why I'm shocked, but please extend the mask mandate and listen to the science. It is so much better to be proactive and just hurt for a little bit wearing these masks rather than waiting till it's too late. Every life matters. It doesn't matter the age. It doesn't matter that I'm healthy too, but I have children and people I care about, and we need to extend the mask mandate. And I just want to thank you all for what you do.
Thank you. Madam Chair, our next speaker is Amy Wright. Ms. Wright, if you go ahead and unmute yourself and give us your spelling and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes to address the board.
Hi, my name is Amy Wright. Last name is W-R-I-G-H-T. I live in St. Petersburg. I'm calling to ask that you guys extend the mask mandate and all emergency precautions. I'm calling because my husband was diagnosed with COVID back in May. He's 26 years old. He had a very mild case, never hospitalized. We are having to face thousands of dollars of ongoing medical costs due to COVID. He had a mild case, recovered, and then now we're finding out that he has heart palpitations that are coming on again, chronic fatigue, he can barely work a full 8-hour day at work. And then also recently, blood tests showed that he's pre-diabetic. We're talking about a man who is 26 years old. He is young, he's fit. He took supplements, he eats right. This is an unknown disease. We have no idea what the long-term side effects are of this disease in the mild cases. We have no medicine to treat these people. There's no, Z-Pak, there's no medication that they can take to resolve them of these COVID, virus inside them. And it's causing long-term damage. I mean, for someone to go from no diabetes or any type of issues with his sugar to now being pre-diabetic at 26 years old is not something for us to be taking lightly. We are going to have millions of people who are young, who are going to be facing a lifetime, a large amount of medical bills and ongoing medical expenses. That's going to ruin our economy anyway. So I just think that we need to be taking these precautions, because this is not something, and all the people who are calling in, haven't actually had the virus. And you need to be talking to survivors. You need to be talking to people who are still, having these lingering effects months after. And this is something that set in like probably a month or two after he recovered. He started experiencing symptoms. So I just hope that you guys take this seriously, because even though we have doctors, we don't have any COVID, facilities to go to for people who are experiencing long-term effects. There's no doctors out there who actually know how to treat this. We've been to multiple doctors. They don't give him any medication. They run all these tests, which costs us a lot of money out of our own pocket. And they have no answers, because a good portion of people who have COVID have normal blood work. They have normal labs. But they still have symptoms and they still have issues. They still have heart, chest pain and tightness of the chest or shortness of breath. And the doctors can't pinpoint it on any x-ray or ultrasound. Like, he had a cardiac ultrasound. It came up normal, but
That's
he's
right.
still having symptoms a month after.
Your time has expired, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. That's all I
Okay.
wanted to say.
Madam Chair, there are 4 remaining speakers that wish to be heard. The time is now 10:30, so these will be the last 4 speakers. Our next speaker is Terry Cunningham. Terry, if you go ahead and unmute yourself and give us your spelling and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes to address the board.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Terry Cunningham, TerriCunningham, and I reside in Tarpon Springs, Florida.
Thank you.
I listen to you guys every time you're on, and I don't ever say anything, but I felt the need to just let you know my 2 cents, and that I would like for you to protect the Gladys Douglas land and to maintain the mask mandate. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Madam Chair, our next speaker is Mitch Schaefer. Mitch, if you go ahead and unmute yourself and give us your spelling and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes to address the board.
My name is Mitch Schaefer. It's Shaffer, and my address is 1685 Nash Court, Dunedin, Florida.
Thank you, sir.
I am a 48-year resident of the city of Dunedin. I am a member of the First Presbyterian Church of Dunedin, as is my family. My father was Donald Schaefer, who was a Dunedin City Commissioner during the 80s. And I'd like to speak on behalf of the Douglas property, Stanley and Gladys Douglas. The Douglas family has been the founders of Dunedin from the very beginning. And that property, I've known it as Jerry Lake Groves or the Douglas property. It's the lake that's on that property is 50 acres. And it's Jerry Lake. And I also have 4 family members that reside in the Dunedin Cemetery. And it was always our intention, our understanding that property was going to be used for park use and or conservation. That's what Gladys has always expressed. And since my parents knew the Douglases and have been on that property, that's how we always understood it. And that's why my father purchased lots in the Dunedin Cemetery, not only because we are residents of Dunedin, but because we knew that was going to be a preserve and a nature piece of property. And I understand that if there's a contract and it's going to be sold, that there may be some kind of negotiations that could be handled where the developer might have part of the property and another part of the property might be designated to a park that might be around the Dunedin Cemetery. So if there's some kind of negotiations that can happen, that would be great. And that's how we feel about that property. And I hope that you take that, being that it was number 1 on your list of properties that you guys wanted to acquire, I think you would certainly want to take a little more effort into securing that property. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Madam Chair, we have 2 remaining speakers. Our next speaker is Diane Lebedev. Diane, if you'll go ahead and unmute yourself and give us your spelling and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes to address the board.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm sorry my computer decided to go out to lunch when
we can hear you now.
I was on the line last time.
No worries.
Good morning, commissioners. I'd like to compliment you on, I think, the very sensible approach that you've taken. proof of the pudding is always in the tasting, as I think I said before last time I spoke to you. And our statistics are really showing success. It doesn't mean that we can't go back into the toilet with the COVID situation. I would like to say, I really like to compliment you also on having kicked over for a week last week, because, we were going to have the school opening. Since then, the court has determined, based on a presentation of facts, that the schools can't open safely, or at least there should be some provision made to increase the safety and the choice of parents. So I think that's wise. I'd like to say I'd really encourage you to extend the mask ordinance for a month. And my reasoning is that the infection cycle seems to be between 2 days and 14 days. And if you have 2 of those cycles, it gets you roughly a month, which I think makes total sense. I'm sure you've seen this yourself, but I just want to put it on the record. The businesses in Pinellas County have managed to adjust. They've adjusted to the mask requirements. It was really interesting to me that when I went to Publix and Target over the weekend, when they were still saying we were going to get a hurricane, people were in the stores more than usual, and they obviously felt free to adjust their lives to the conditions that are going on, as well as wearing masks. I think we all know that if you have uncertain regulations, that people become less compliant. So I would encourage you to keep the mask requirement, and I'd like to thank you for how you've handled it so far. Thank you.
Madam Chair, our last speaker is Larry Gerson. Larry, if you'll go ahead and unmute yourself and give us your spelling and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes to address the board.
Sure, it's Larry, L-A-R-R-I, Gerson, G-E-R-S-O-N. I live in Dunedin, Florida. I'm grateful that the Board of County Commissioners made face masks mandatory. Now my shopping trips to Publix and other businesses are now safe. It pains me to hear those today who don't want to wear face masks because they claim their personal freedom is more important than to protect the public health of others. Over and over, the basis of their opposition is based on misinformation and used to justify their belief, which is dangerous to the general public. It's also sad to watch and hear some of our local leaders who oppose wearing a face mask only to show it's for political gain. Most recently, Sheriff Gutierrez was seen on the news not wearing face masks. And as we can see, he came down with COVID. Fortunately, he recovered, but that's not the case for everybody, as you heard from the previous person. I would like to ask why the Board of County Commissioners not follow the recommendations by the CDC to wear face masks outside in the public. The Pinellas ordinance is weak and only reference to wear face masks outside when not able to be socially distanced. Please make this ordinance specific as it relates to walking outside. I noticed this part of the ordinance not being followed. I, for one, will not enter an area that is not enforced. How many others will not visit a business in a shopping center or even in like downtown Dunedin if it's not safe for COVID-19? The only way businesses are to survive COVID-19 is to limit the spread of the disease. Wear face masks inside the business and outside in public areas. Please continue the face mask ordinance and all the conditions included. And I also want to support the Douglas property, and I sent you a letter. I don't need to repeat it, but I think it's important that you stay in touch and be transparent with the public, since this was, I believe that it was put aside, and that's how come it got lost. And now all of a sudden we hear Pulte Homes is wanting to buy it, and we're scrambling. Dunedin did the same thing with the Hammock property, and we scrambled, and then we found the money at the end, and it ended up costing more money. So please make a concerted effort to purchase this property and move on to the other properties that need to be purchased. And don't wait till the very end or wait till a contract is on offer, because then it's going to cost you more money and cost us as taxpayers. But thank you, everything you all are doing, and you're staying strong, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much. You're doing a good job. Thank you.
Madam Chair, one other hand went up, but it went up after your 10:30 cutoff. So it's up to you whether you want to entertain it. And you're muted, Madam Chair. I'm sorry.
Let's take that last one.
Okay. Our last speaker is Carla Rudolph. Carla, if you'll go ahead and unmute yourself and give us your spelling and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes to address the board.
Thank you. Yes. And thank you for allowing me to pop in here at the last minute. I'm sorry that I was a little late, but and I thank you for what you guys are doing. I know it must be hard. My name is Carla Rudolph. I live in St. Petersburg, Florida. And I just want to put my opinion in here. It's based on what I have seen from doctors saying that the masks are actually not really helping, and they can be harmful, and the mandate is not a law, and I think people are confused about that. And I have an issue with wearing the mask, and I've seen many doctors say, and even the World Health Organization has said that wearing the mask don't even help. If you're asymptomatic, and even if you've tested positive, they're calling it a case, but if you're asymptomatic, you are not going to be spreading this virus to anyone. And so the masks they're not doing any good anyway. So if they're unhealthy to wear, which many doctors are saying, and they're not doing any good anyway, people make it optional. People can wear the mask if they want to wear the mask and trust in that. But if people have an issue with it, they should be able to opt out of it. And it's not to do with, it's not all to do with freedom to do that or not. It's just people should have the choice. And if you want to trust in the mask, fine, trust in the mask. But I have an issue with the mask, and I don't trust it. And so I prefer not to wear it. So the mandate should be optional. And I thank you for doing what you're doing, and thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, there are no other speakers.
All right. Well, let's get an update then on our local state of emergency and where we are.
Commissioners, the order before you would do an extension from August the 28th until September the 4th. As you've heard over the last several weeks, we begin to see our numbers decline, but that doesn't mean we're out of the woods. We still average over 100 new cases per day through our testing sites, what is identified. And we also know that during this time, the sheriff pointed that out on our on our policy call the other day, that we have 70,000 either teachers or students coming back into our schools. The impact of that is going to take time to understand. So what we saw in the beginning was community spread that was occurring at an alarming rate. That is not a position we want to be back into. We do need to continue to evaluate that. We are cognizant of that we have a mask mandate, and we also have an order that limits serving in bars to those that are seated. Those are two small steps that I think we've taken that has contributed to the lowering of COVID spread within our community. So Dr. Cho is on the line, Dr. Jameson is on the line, the sheriff's on the line. We recommend this extension. I think this is going to take time to play out, and for the callers that ask about a time period, we need to see this not in a matter of a week or two, but in a matter of 3 or 4 or 5 weeks. And then we can reevaluate that. But our recommendation in unison from your policy.
Because we do have a county by county report shows a 3.3% in terms of our fatality rate, which is the 3rd highest in the state and certainly the number 1 in terms of the largest counties. And to Barry's point, we continue to look at the trends. Most experts do believe that we are going to see these ups and downs, these spikes through the course. Keeping in mind we're only on phase 2 of reopening, so certainly we've seen it with the ease of policies that we could see additional cases as well. So the message that we're going to continue to push is to continue to practice social distancing and wear masks.
Thank you. Commissioner Welch.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to make a few brief comments. I do support our administrative team's recommendation. I just want to respond to a few things for the public. In taking my notes here, this is unaudited, but just in my quick notes, we had 12 callers actually in support of extending the order and maintaining the mask mandate, and 7 opposed. And so you folks out there on social media talk about this groundswell. We had more folks calling in support, 12, than opposed at 7. I want to reply to Mr. Happ's comment. Mr. Happ, you did a very liberal paraphrase of my comments about when we would know. And I basically said when we look at the conditions on the ground, when we look at what's happening with the school reopenings, and that, when you listen to most folks, it's going to take 2 to 3 weeks to see what that impact was. And when we get the recommendation from our medical professionals, and I still believe that. Now, you added in medical professionals who we fund, and I just want to be accurate that Dr. Cho is actually an employee of the state, not of Pinellas County government. Dr. Jameson is our EMS medical director. But for folks who haven't been watching, we've brought in, again, I want to thank Commissioner Long and the chair, the CEOs of Baycare, our local hospitals, Advent, Bayfront Medical Center, and many other medical professionals and public safety professionals urged us to maintain this mask requirement. This reminds me a lot of the fluoride issue, where we had a consensus of recommendations from medical experts on what the science said and what the public health impacts are. And then we had a group of passionate folks who disagreed with that. I get that. But this is absolutely not political, and I just reject that flatly. This is not political. This is about what's in the best interest of our community. Last week, when we had our work session, I had to leave early, and I had to leave to go to Invest Tampa Bay, where I was giving the closing keynote. And that is a conference of business professionals from all over Tampa Bay. And one of those panels was a panel of healthcare professionals. And I just want to quote, I think it was one of the best kind of advice on COVID, concise advice that I've seen. And it was from John Corus, who again doesn't work for us. He's the CEO of Tampa General. He also was an appointee to Governor DeSantis' reopening task force. And so he's not some liberal person with an agenda. And he said there are 4 things that we do. And if we don't do those 4 things consistently, we're going to have problems going forward. And those 4 things were: 1, wear masks; socially distance; wash hands; and make good decisions around crowds. And he was adamant that if we don't do those 4 things, we're going to have problems. And he said, this is through the end of the year and probably early next year until we're further down the path to a vaccine. So I fully support our direction. I think the improvements we're seeing are precisely because of the mask requirement and the social distancing and the other work that our community has done so well, and they've come together and done the right thing. So I'm fully supportive. And again, I want to thank Dr. Cho and Dr. Jameson for their work in giving us really good advice. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Seal.
Yes, thank you very much. I agree with Commissioner Welch, and I also want to share a telephone conversation I had yesterday with Dr. Grego with the Pinellas County School System. And they have done a terrific job. I can't even believe the measures that they've had to take to reopen the schools and to also do virtual learning for those who have chosen not to go back to school at the present time. But he urged us to keep the mask order in place because it's going to be so critical at the schools. And he said, it's been amazing how compliant all these young people have been with wearing the mask. And He just said it's been just great. And the spirit that's been going on at the school with kids back together, social distancing, wearing their mask, washing their hands is just very critical. But I did want to commend the Pinellas County School Board as well as all the employees at the school system for everything that they've done to reopen the schools. Thank you.
Thank you.
You have Commissioner Long, Madam Chair.
I know. Commissioner
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thanks. Commissioner Long.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be brief as well, though I do want to share that I totally agree 1,000% with Commissioner Welch and Commissioner Seal. And I find it very interesting, just as a side note, about the way in which our young people are being compliant. And I know that from watching and talking to my young grandchildren. And when I ask them, why are you wearing a mask to school? It's so interesting to hear their response. And without exception, they will say things like, well, Granite, because they all call me Granite, it's because I care about my friends and I don't want them to be sick. And I know they care about me and feel the same way. So I find it interesting that our young people understand that almost innately, and some of our adults are not so understanding or so willing to sacrifice. And I think, I don't obviously speak for everyone, but there isn't anyone who enjoys wearing a mask. And when I'm out and about with my mask and I start thinking, oh my God, this is so hot. Oh gosh, I'm getting all flustered. I immediately let my mind think about the medical professionals who are in the hospitals and in our adult congregate living facilities or nursing homes and are wearing these masks for 13 or 14 hours a day. And it makes me think, how little my personal sacrifice is in comparison. And to the citizen, though I apologize, I don't remember her name, I was kind of struck by the way in which she mirrored what I had said in a former meeting about just look around the world. And I think that might have been taken a little out of context, because my thought process was, it's important to watch and learn from those countries or other states in our own countries, what they did and what they did not do that caused them to have spikes after their numbers had gone down, and hopefully be smart enough not to repeat it. So while I am anxious to lift the mandates and, have things go back somewhat to the way they were, I'm also incredibly sensitive and aware that a lot of what we're trying to do with our restrictions is ensure that we don't get placed in a position where we find it necessary to shut our businesses down again. I want them to come back, and I want them to thrive, and I want our economy to be really good, because when that happens, it's good for all of us. So for those reasons, and for the same ones that everyone else has said, I do want to keep that mask ordinance in place until we know from our infectious disease experts where we're going. I mean, this is not a science that is just standing still. It's evolving every single day, every week. We are learning new things. And I would prefer to err on the side of caution. And I also think it might be interesting to hear from Sheriff Gualtieri, who is a survivor and who can speak to the seriousness of this issue with some degree of experience. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Eggers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just really wanted to say, first of all, thank you to this commission for agreeing to keep these weekly meetings. And I know they can, be a little cumbersome, but I think it's really important to continue hearing from our residents. And I really do appreciate all of the comments that we're getting. And I know our doctors listen as well. And I get a lot of information that I send on to Dr. Cho and Dr. Jameson to get their take on it. And I know that they do their own research during the week, from week to week as well, and try to gather the latest information, the studies, epidemiology, advancements or changes or whatever. So, but I think it's really important to hear from our folks, and we might get those pieces of information that start to paint a different picture in 3, 6, 9 weeks down the road. And I do think it's going to be important. And I also talked to Dr. Grego, but I think it's going to be very important to see how we get the school system into our own system and how that whole process works and how the numbers hopefully will stay down, but invariably we'll get some cases. But in any event, I was just hoping that maybe Dr. Jameson could talk just briefly again, because one of the things is, a couple of the speakers that called in have asked us to come up with our criteria that we will use to make our decision to take away the mask mandate. Well, it may not be an exact formula. We look at percent positives, and those numbers are very encouraging. The number of cases, that's encouraging. But I think one of the most important things that we're looking at are hospital availability, long-term care facilities, and that becomes our facility. That's our curve flattener now. We take folks from the hospital, decompress a little bit, and we're using our long-term care facilities. So maybe just a brief comment on how things are going in the hospitals, how things are going in our long-term care facilities, and maybe if there's anything new on the epidemiology front, just maybe comment on that as well. But at this point, I'm going to continue with the same direction that we've been doing for the last week. I really want to see what happens with the schools and continue to see the numbers dropping as they are before we take action on rescinding the mask for them. Thank you.
So I'll try to respond to the question as best I can. So we continue to see our hospitals just do fantastic work in terms of taking care of the community. We have overcome some significant challenges over the last weeks. I would note that our number of folks hospitalized within Pinellas County remains higher than I would like to see. We had a period this spring prior to beginning, what's been referred to as reopening, where we were having pretty low daily case numbers of new cases, and where we had a fairly small number of total people in the hospital, in the neighborhood of 100 or less for a long time. We still remain closer to the 150 plus mark at this point, currently hospitalized. And so one of the things that I'm concerned about is that for the last week or so, we've sort of reached a plateau in terms of the number of hospitalized folks. And I'd be reluctant to see us experience another spike when we've plateaued at a higher level than we experienced all spring. So that's one of the reasons why I think that it's important that we continue to stay the course and do what we can during this time to sort of make as much of a gain against this virus as we can right now. Overall, though, our hospitals are doing fantastic. We get better every day at treating these patients as we learn more. But we have seen a significant mortality rate among cases here in Pinellas County, unfortunately. And we continue to see people have mild disease, have moderate disease, and have long-term consequences, and even die from this virus right here in Pinellas. So I do not think that we are through this. And as far as figuring out when this will all be over, as much as we'd love to know that with certainty, I don't think I can tell you that right now, and I don't think anybody can tell you that right now. We unfortunately are not in the driver's seat with this virus. This virus is novel, and it has all of the characteristics that people talk about in public health of being very, very difficult to control. And I would like to just reemphasize one thing, is that we are as confident as could be based on what we know about this virus, that asymptomatic transmission does in fact occur. So I don't want to overlook that point that was brought up by one of our callers.
Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
James.
Commissioner Peters.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to concur. I had a call from Dr. Grego as well, and I think they're doing a really good job. And I think the young people going back to school, they understand. I think they really understand that the virus is real and it's a serious issue. But I asked last week if we could come up with some kind of plan. I don't think it's unreasonable, just like the governor is coming up with a plan to open up nursing homes so people understand that eventually there will be hope that they will be able to see their loved ones. And I honestly believe that not seeing the loved ones has really affected that mortality rate, because if you don't have hope, if you don't feel you have hope and you don't have the ability to see your loved ones, you lose hope. So I don't think it's unreasonable for us to come up with a roadmap and at least give people hope. If you don't think the anxiety isn't real, it is. And the people that have anxiety about the mask, it's real. It's not fake. They're not just making it up. It's not the political. The anxiety is real. And there's a whole lot of anxiety going on right now. I am very convinced that we'll have another spike now that school's back in session. It's the next big thing that we're doing. So of course I expect a spike, but I don't think it's unreasonable to generate a map or a plan so that the citizens know that we have a plan. I requested it last week. I'm getting the interpretation today that we haven't done anything to move in that direction. But I think after school opens, and I do believe we'll experience this spike, I think people need to have any kind of they need to know. And there's nothing wrong with giving them some kind of plan and a roadmap that after this next spike that I expect to have, if we don't have, wonderful. If we don't get it, that's great. But if we do, and then let's say we go another 5 or 6 weeks with low percentage numbers, right? We're looking at businesses right now. Businesses can still mandate whatever they want to mandate, just like they are today. And I'm not saying that we should lift the mask. What I'm saying is we should have a roadmap. We should have a plan. And the public should know what the plan is so they have expectations. And that's all they're asking for. They're only asking for directions so that they know what the expectation is. And just like the governor's working on a plan, whether it was opening school and he gave people choices and he's working on a plan for nursing homes, why are we not working on a plan that gives people their expectations? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I don't understand why this group hasn't started working on that. Yes, every week that goes by, there's new procedures that are working. The blood plasma, that, their therapeutics are working exceptionally well. We didn't have that in the first spike. We have that in the second spike. We're learning a lot. The success with the ECMO machines, those people that are put on those machines wouldn't have survived, but now they are. There are great things happening, but there's still anxiety at the local level with our citizens. And I think if we were to come up with a plan, just like the state is coming up with a plan, I don't know why we're not coming up with a plan, and we can just distribute that plan to the citizens and then they know. And it's not unreasonable. I think Mr. Happy is absolutely correct that, he expects a plan, and I don't understand why we haven't given him one. I don't see that there's no reason why we don't. We could just sit around and wait and sit around and wait and sit around and wait and sit around and wait. I don't think that gives them direction, and it certainly doesn't do anything for their anxiety. I honestly believe if there's a plan, then they understand that plan, they know what they're looking for, and then some of that anxiety goes away. It's just my opinion, and I'm hopeful that the policy committee will start working on a plan just like the state is working on plans, and we're no different. So thank you.
Thank you. I just want to say for the public that the only restrictions that Pinellas County has from this commission right now are to wear a mask when you're indoors and to not congregate in bars without sitting at a table to get served. Everything else comes from the state of Florida. If your business is being impacted, it's not Pinellas County that's impacting it. I think we're doing a great job. We obviously have a better, rate of infection than just about anywhere in the state, but our fatality rate is 3.3%. I actually had an email a couple of weeks ago from a person who suggested that a 2% fatality rate was acceptable because they're mostly old people. Well, let me tell you, that's not acceptable to me. You know, and if you have not lost a loved one or a friend from this disease yet, just wait. It's not a joke. It's, you know, this is not a power play. I can't imagine why I would want you to wear a mask unless I thought it was going to, you know, contribute to slowing down this disease and helping not infect other people. I just can't imagine what my rationale for that would be. And I'm, you know, the other thing I wanted to respond to is that there were a couple of comments about some of us appearing in public without a mask. I can tell you, I go outside with a mask. When I go indoors anywhere in this county, I am wearing a mask. The only time I take that mask off is to make a statement into a camera, because that's part of my job as the county commission chair, is to answer questions from the press. And as soon as I get done making that statement, I think a couple of my fellow commissioners could tell you, when I was out yesterday and was filmed without a mask, I put that mask back on immediately before I got within 6 feet of other people. And I'm sure that's true for Sheriff Bob and anybody else that's speaking on our behalf. So just so you know. Anybody else? Yes, Commissioner Welch.
Just one final thing, Madam Chair, and I'll send it out to share with you. But part of the Invest Tampa Bay conference was a poll of the business community in terms of the response to COVID among local governments, national governments, and Pinellas County was at the top of the list, and that came directly from the business community. So I'll email that out to everyone, but I failed to mention that earlier. Thank you.
Thank you. So we are talking about the local state of emergency that we need to extend. Do we have any further comment on that? I will entertain a motion.
Commissioner Gerard, I guess since I've been quiet on it, I should probably just for the record, I guess, or for everybody, is that I absolutely support everything you all have said. The county administrator absolutely and accurately captured my position on it. You need to extend it. It's the right thing to do. And we really need to see what happens long-term with the effect of those 70,000 people who have returned to the Pinellas County schools as students and or staff. So from personal experience, and I sit here and listen to all this and digest it, and people can talk about the issues and the quote inconvenience. I have, for the inconvenience, I have no sympathy. For the people who have issues, there's ways around it, and I can respect that. But I can tell you that wearing a mask is a lot less inconvenient than having this nasty virus. For somebody that had it and still has the effects of it, is that wear a mask.
Thank you. I didn't want to put you on the spot with that, but okay. And I just wanted to address Commissioner Peters and the people that called in. The plan is to continue to wait and see what happens with the, I'm not, you know, I don't think a spike is necessary if we continue to do what we're doing. We will have a little bit of a spike, yes, because kids are in school. I'm delighted to hear from Dr. Grego that kids are complying and that, you know, they have a lot of, that's really good news. So I just think the plan is to keep doing what we're doing until we get some advice that we're ready to let it go. Yes, Commissioner Eggers.
Yeah, I just really wanted to say that, you know, a couple weeks ago, we just started discussing, or at least I brought up the idea that, you know, we all need to individually on our own, we continue to read, we continue to do our own investigation, we continue to reflect on our twice a week meetings from our health experts and the planning group to continue to process. And we all are doing that individually. And my understanding is that the policy group is now having greater discussions about, you know, that whole process. So it's not that those conversations aren't occurring, they are. And I think the important reason for that is so that when we do get to a point where we want to make a decision, it's not just the first time we're talking about it. We're actually dealing with creating individually our roadmaps, trying to identify what those numbers are, how long that they're in place, how the schools have have melded in, to our society again, and those numbers. So I do think that is starting to happen. Every morning we talk about the percent positives, the number of cases, the hospital, the condition of our hospitals, the condition of our long-term care facilities, COVID locations. I mean, that's a part of this whole formula. And so whether that's we have 10% capacity available in there, or 15 or 20, or what's the trends? I think the trends are really important too. We're looking at 7-day trends and 14-day trends are all still very optimistic about all of that. So I think that is going on. And I'm not sure that there's an exact number yet for any one of us that ultimately make the decision, or that the group has, but I do think that we're working towards that, because nobody wants this stuff. I mean, nobody wants to have to wear a mask. That's not, as Commissioner Long said, it's not fun. It's not great stuff. Nobody wants to do it. So anyway, I just wanted to let those, I think a couple of folks that mentioned that, you guys have to start coming up with a plan. I think that plan is being worked on. It just takes some time. So anyway, that's all I had, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner, if I can just add to that, that is exactly the discussion. So coming up with a plan is no different than the state. We're in a phase 2. It doesn't say, you can't find it on a state website that says when we get to X, then you go to phase 3. There's criteria they're looking at. They're looking at the conditions on the ground, and then we're doing the same thing. Part of that is where the state is. Part of that is the school opening. Part of that is what's occurring within our hospital capacity. So all of that, your policy team, including the sheriff, Dr. Cho, Dr. Jameson, and others, are looking at that daily. We're collaborating on what that would look like and whether it's time to make a recommendation for changes. So that is occurring. I can't put a definition to it. It is all of those things that go into us trying to make an informed decision and advising you and making recommendations to you. So we will continue to do that and bring back any changes as we see as based upon the conditions on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion. Yes, Commissioner Welch.
Move the resolution, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Welch, second from Commissioner Long. All in favor, say, raise your hand, please. Aye. Okay. Motion carries unanimously. Next up is the CARES Act.
Yes, we have actually 3 presentations for you today. The first up is an update on our CARES Act, and Audrey Phillips is on the line and can provide kind of an update on our programs and how we're doing. Here she is.
Hi, Commissioners. Sorry, I had to get added in. Thank you so much for having me this morning. I'm pleased to share an update on your CARES programs. First, just briefly to recap for the public who may be listening, we launched initial housing and small business programs in May, and then engaged the community to help us design a balanced approach for the remainder of the federal CARES Act funding that the county received. And this plan puts our residents and businesses first and prioritizes those most in need. So I'm pleased to share today's progress update on these programs with you all. And with that, we can go to the next slide, Brian. Thank you. So first, an update on the programs overall, and I'll start on the top left and be moving through these. Our individual and family assistance program yesterday eclipsed 8 million in financial assistance payments paid out. This is 8.1 million in overdue bills or housing and rent utility payments that for those who have been out of work due to COVID impacts. We have nearly 6,000 individual payments, and that's helping nearly 3,000 households, 2,841 as of yesterday. So the numbers on the slide are a little bit outdated, but we wanted to have you the latest information. The Nonprofit Partnership Fund, which launched on August 7th, the grant application system and program website are up and running and have updates on as grant funds are awarded. That information is posted on that website. There are approximately 59 applications that have been submitted or in progress. And these are applications from our nonprofit partners in Pinellas County who are helping to meet those basic needs, housing, assistance, feeding assistance, making sure that we're able to continue providing those critical services for those who have been impacted by COVID. That review committee for those applications is kicking off this afternoon. They'll be reviewing the first 4 applications, and 8 more are in the queue coming up next week for consideration. On COVID-19 mitigation and response, we've invested $1.5 million in ensuring that we have a PPE stockpile so our community is prepared to respond if we do see increases. We also have appropriated $4.4 million to support COVID-19 testing and contact tracing, and that is in partnership with the Department of Health in Pinellas County and the community health centers, making sure that folks have access to testing and we have adequate contact tracing resources in the county. We've also are rolling out reimbursement for cities and the county. As I mentioned, our programs really prioritize residents and businesses first. So aligned with that approach, what we are looking at for city and county reimbursement is only FEMA eligible COVID expenses above normal cost. So while cities and the county are responding in lots of ways, we're limiting what we're charging to and using the CARES Act dollars for, really trying to prioritize those community impacts first. We also on August 7th launched our Child Care Assistance Program. This is providing grants to licensed child care facilities, making sure that we have capacity in our child care facilities in here in Pinellas County. That's critical for folks who are trying to get back to work. As of yesterday, 146 grants have been approved for child care facilities, totaling $980,000. So that's helping those child care facilities be up and operational, maintain capacity for our workforce. Along the lines of workforce, we also know that our economy has been severely disrupted by the impacts of COVID. So we are working and will be launching shortly a workforce reemployment program to help those that have been displaced from their jobs get retrained and reemployed and back to work. Finally, on the overall programs, our local business grant, firstly on the initial small business program, which closed on June 30th. There are a few cases still wrapping up this week, but on total, over 3,000 businesses, 3,242, excuse me, small businesses that were forced to close due to state orders have received grants totaling $16.2 million. And that's to help those businesses bridge that gap from those impacts of being forced to close due to the state orders. We are intending to launch our new local business program next week and plan on having a press event on Monday to announce that. And that is expanded to not only those businesses that were forced to close directly, but those whose customers were forced to close as well. In addition, it's also including home-based businesses are now eligible through the new program. So a lot more details on that on Monday with that press event to announce the launch of a new program. We can go to the next slide now. We wanted to dig in a little bit on the housing assistance program and make sure that you all understand what we're seeing there and the progress that's been made, but also what we're still continuing to work on. So as you know, we leverage the existing adult emergency financial assistance program. That program's been in place for several years, providing housing and utility assistance. And it allowed us to connect the CARES funded housing and utility assistance with wraparound crisis intervention services. As many of you have mentioned, you know, when you're impacted and have lost your job, it's not just housing and utilities. There's lots of other impacts that individuals and families are having. And so having that crisis intervention wraparound services adds a lot of value. But what we have found is that we've really had a lot of volume with the number of people who have been impacted. So we've been working collaboratively with 211 on process improvements and adding additional reviewers to get those requests processed more quickly. Specifically, 211 and county staff have worked to implement an attestation form to streamline documentation, a case tracker spreadsheet with due date reminders and template client communication so that those who apply are getting notified when their case has been assigned to a reviewer, trying to keep everyone updated on the status of their case and when they can expect their overdue bill to be paid. We've also implemented an expedited checklist for subsequent payments. So the CARES Act does allow us to use CARES Act dollars to pay overdue bills, but not those that are not yet overdue. So once someone applies for funding, if they continue to be out of work and continue to be impacted by COVID, there's a need for them to provide additional documentation of their ongoing overdue bills. And so we have an expedited process to make sure that those are moving through quickly, since the case itself has already been approved. We are focusing on adding people on the phones where we've continued to experience high call volumes and long wait times. That is pretty typical from what we've seen in other emergency situations. It's called a crisis intervention line for a reason. We've got people in crisis, but what we're trying to do is make sure that we've also got staffing sufficient on the processing side so that we can process these requests for assistance quickly and allow those call takers to handle the crisis calls, but get those requests for assistance processed, because if you're getting assistance, then we're getting you out of crisis. We're still getting calls. We'll continue to get them. We're in a state of emergency. That's to be expected. But we know that there's still more we can do to help clients and who are impacted know what's happening and what to expect. So we're refreshing, and this is happening as we speak. That's ongoing, refreshing the program webpage as well as FAQs to provide more targeted information at clients' fingertips so that they have clear, simple information about how to apply, what to expect, and to distinguish the non-crisis program processes. If you're out of work due to COVID, we want you to be able to apply if you need assistance with housing and rent and utilities and get those processed quickly, but distinguish that from the crisis intervention services for those that need to call 211 for those crisis intervention services. We want to keep those separate so we can keep processing payments. Those updates are in progress, and so you'll be seeing those roll out shortly, and that should help keep folks from having to call to request updates on their cases. We really need them to be texting 898-211 COVID cares to that number. If we can go to the next slide, I wanted to spend a little more time on, we mentioned that the call volumes, yes, are high. The key thing for this CARES program is that we're processing those requests for assistance and we're getting assistance to households. So that is our key performance metric here. And you can see the first week of July is when we implemented many of these process improvements, including the attestation form. Those have really improved the administrative efficiency of this program. And you can see that since the first week of July, the average weekly payments issued out has increased by more than 350%. So this has been a great partnership. We're continuing to work on it and adapt as we move forward, but we've seen tremendous progress and we'll continue to work forward.
Okay, thank you. So yeah.
So we also have Daisy on the line and Lourdes. So if there's any questions or comments, we certainly are available to answer any questions.
Yes, Commissioner Eggers.
Thank you. Thank you for that update. I can tell you I was hoping to hear something about the business today. So I guess we'll wait for the weekend and then Monday with everybody else. But that's what I get calls from all the time. What's going on with the business? We've been waiting a month to hear something. So I'm glad we're talking about the launch next week. I did get a chance to go over at Mickey Thompson from 211. She offered to let us stop by and chat and visit and understand. So I did get a chance to go over there, and I really appreciated the insight on the additional reviewers and how that seems to be moving things along. The attestation form has really helped. I did hear a comment just a minute ago that I think the biggest issue that we have right now is once we get the application in, again, a level of expectation, how long is it going to be before we expect to hear something? And again, remembering all along that these folks are going through really difficult times and very emotional times that they may not be hearing as often, what they should be hearing, or but I think it's really important to be able to give feedback. My understanding is that the software that we have in place it's difficult to, every couple of weeks to queue people up, and it's also about staff time too, to get back to them and say, hey, it's still in the process, it's moving along, just be patient with us, we'll get to you as quickly as we can. So those are the folks that, they're really hurting, and sometimes it can go 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, and from their perspective, they don't know what's going on. So I don't know if there's any comments about encouraging them to, during the process, maybe contacting their contractor, whether it's their landlord, whether it's their utility company or whoever, because they might know before they find out that yes, there's been some communication. Yes, we understand there's discussion, but I think that's the difficult part right now, that I'm at least in having the discussion with Mickey and Daisy the other day, that seemed to be an area, managing expectations and ongoing communication. So whatever we can do to improve that, I think would be helpful, but I certainly am glad to see the numbers heading in the right direction as far as getting money out to our residents. So thank you.
Commissioner, I would like staff to, address that. There is no question that we went down this path. This is a very manual process. It would be much better if somebody could log in and see the status of their case. But it's really too late to change. It's, we would have to start a new program. There'd be delays, there'd be transfers. So we've evaluated a lot of this, but it is a very manual process. And so we've added an additional 26 people between reviewers and people on the phones trying to address that backlog. We do apologize to the public. I do understand it is frustrating and it's not acceptable, and we're continuing to work on that. But I think you're right. There's other ways in which to improve the communication. Excuse me. And maybe Daisy or Aubrey can talk about some of the steps in which they're trying to keep people from calling in, which then takes the time away from, as part of that backlog.
Yes, I can speak briefly, and then I'll let Daisy chime in as well, because she is really closest to this program and knows it in and out. There's been a lot done. Yes, there are constraints with the system, but they have implemented tracking spreadsheets so that there are due date reminders and prompts and follow-ups with the clients. But the program communications being updated in the website is exactly that. We want to make sure that people know what to expect, so when they submit a request, they know how long they should expect to hear back. One of the other things that we're working on is some template language that someone who's applied could use to notify their landlord or their utility company that they have applied and are waiting for their case to be reviewed. So we're trying to do everything we can to manage expectations with the clients, make sure that they have communications to help them manage the stress of the situation and know what to expect and communicate with their providers. Daisy, do you want to speak to some of the more of the details?
Yeah, I was just going to say that that's absolutely correct. Aubrey, one of the things that we are looking at is what's that communication tool, or what document can we provide to the individual that they can go ahead and provide to their landlord. I know that many of them, many of the individuals have indicated, and some of the landlords have indicated that they, once they know that the individual is working with 211 and has the case number, that there's more leniency. They understand that it's a process system that might take a little bit of time. I think the other key factor is, as Aubrey said, we're working very closely to refresh the communication strategy and sort of reshift to help level set what the expectations are in terms of how quickly an application would go through. As soon as it gets to the reviewers do immediately contact via email and via text, introducing themselves as being the caseworker on their case, so it helps to build that relationship. And so the most important thing is that if the individual sends in all of the documents at once, then those cases really can get approved in the same day once the reviewer gets it. What we find still is that there are many people who are not submitting things, concurrently that require follow-up. And in some cases, people do not respond at all, even after multiple attempts. So we hold those cases aside as well, so that if individuals then decide or get alerted somehow, they remember that they need to send something in and the case has been closed, the caseworker has that at their fingertips and can provide that immediate assistance right away as well.
Thank you. Any other questions? Commissioner Welch.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to thank staff for their yeoman's work on this. I know the direction was to get these dollars on the street as quickly as possible, and I think that's the direction staff was following. And 211 might not have been the perfect tool to do this, but it was the available tool. So appreciate all the work y'all are doing on that. On slide 4, we showed the increase in housing and utility payments by week, and it's basically more than double to a little under $1 million per week. Did you all look at the fact that I believe the city of St. Pete and Clearwater are offering similar assistance? Are any folks out there who actually got assistance from another source like St. Pete or Clearwater, and they're still in our system as an applicant? Have we looked at that?
We don't have a way of cross comparing them between other jurisdictions. Aubrey, am I correct on that?
That's correct. However, because the payments are going to the providers, if the bill's already been paid, then presumably the provider would return the payment and not.
Okay.
Right now, again, it all goes back though. There are some requirements. I mean, you can't double on the funds, and so there's some requirements we have in that's within the CARES Act. So if somebody else is the municipality is applying for CARES Act funding, they can't then come through our program and use it for the same purpose. So there are some issues there that we try to coordinate with, but we're dealing with this individual as individuals, and we're dealing with it countywide, regardless of whether they're in a jurisdiction. Some of the issues, though, in terms of people responding, is the confusion. The big thing that we did when we did the survey is people are confused. They're confused about federal programs, unemployment, city programs, state programs, and so, we thought even so we would have more people accessing that and doing the follow-up, getting the documentation. And I think there is a lot of information out there, and it's very hard to navigate. So we've done a better job of trying to bring that information in to where people can easily access this. But confusion has been a big part of the different programs that are out there.
I know Barbara gives us updates frequently. How many are out there in the queue now for financial assistance? Just ballpark.
So it's difficult to get a hard number on that. As Daisy was mentioning earlier, there are a number of applications that have not had any applicant response on them. So the reviewer has received it, is reaching back out to the applicant regarding documentation that's missing or additional information, and there's no response. And those are still in the queue of review, and so that is inflating, and that's been one of the things that's been challenging to get a handle on, is how many still need to be processed, because we're prioritizing moving those cases along that we can move along.
Okay, so what's the number, include understanding that some of those might be dormant? What's the number?
Let me pull that up real quick. If you can give me one moment.
And while Aubrey,
you have it handy?
No, while you're doing that, Aubrey, I just want to clarify something. The cities of Largo and St. Pete call 211 to see if we've already made payments.
Okay.
And what Aubrey said is correct. We wouldn't pay something that's already paid, because just as a reminder, these are vendor payments to the utility companies, to the landlords. It's not like the small business program.
Okay.
And if I can just add to that, I know there was a comment last week that, that program has done X amount of dollars. Apples and oranges. We've actually paid out more checks, vendor checks, than that program, right?
Program
a water bill, light bill, that's a smaller amount than giving somebody $5,000. So I just want to share that with the folks.
And if Brian can pull up the first slide, that's really apparent on the first slide when you look at the number of cases approved between the two programs. It's more than double on the housing and individual assistance side what it is in on the business side.
Okay.
One quick thing I wanted to mention while I'm still getting that pulled up is that There has been a lot of confusion about where to find information. If folks are looking for information about the Pinellas CARES program, which is, as Barry mentioned, are countywide, anyone who lives in Pinellas County should look at cares.pinellas.gov. If you've been impacted by COVID, that's where all of the information about all of the CARES programs is posted.
Aubrey, while you're looking that up, do we have a date? I know you said the press conference for the business phase 2 is Monday, but is that the actual rollout date as well, Monday?
We will launch, announce the date of the launch on Monday. And I know that I'm asking a lot for everyone to be patient. We're really trying to make sure that it's simple and clear for applicants. And so that is taking some time. We want to make sure that we don't confuse folks when we launch the program. So we will announce the launch on Monday.
Thank you.
Commissioner Eggers.
Yeah, in the discussions yesterday when I was at 211 with those folks, and I think Daisy and I were talking about it, I think it's continues to be very important that we keep a handle on our elected representatives as to the extension of the CARES Act past 12/31 this year. And one of the things that was kind of telling, as we were having the discussion, the comment was made kind of like, well, we're going to probably have to stop taking calls from our residents somewhere around the 1st of November. There's no exact time, but because we have to then process before the end of the year. And at some point you have to stop that. And it may be that we're going to have to stop it. Maybe it's the middle of November or whatever, depending on the program. So I think it's very important. I know that the latest that I talked to Congressman Bilirakis, he said, yeah, I think there's a real good chance it'll be extended, but it's one of those things where we can't wait till December to get that word. It's so that we can keep the program moving. Otherwise, it's going to stop in its tracks while they make that decision. So I don't know if we've heard anything directly, Barry, but that certainly needs to be an area that we continue pushing and pressing on all fronts to see if we can get, even 3 months makes a big difference, but another 6 months would be perfect, I think so.
And we did, when we spoke to you in July, we are coming back in September to reevaluate and see where we are. And we know that that's, next week. So we will be coming back in September looking at where we are. We will need to start making some decisions about when we've transitioned, but we've also are working closely with our disaster experts and consultants to understand what's happening at the federal level, because that does definitely affect how we move forward as a county and inform the policy recommendations that we bring to you. We are working to track down that number. It was reported regularly in a spreadsheet, but it's gone offline. So let me follow up with you via email if I may, commissioners.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you very much, Aubrey and Daisy.
Aubrey has worked very, very, very hard to pull all of these different components together, working with many, many staff that are involved. And we really, really appreciate her stepping up to the plate and taking this on.
Yeah.
We have 2 budget information sessions. The first item, Jim Fogarty, if we can add him in, is going to provide an update. He gave you a presentation last week regarding the EMS seats. And we went back and looked at this, heard the comments, and I'll turn it over to Jim for a brief presentation.
Good morning, commissioners. Jim Fogarty, Director, Department of Safety and Emergency Services. Thanks for having me this morning. Real quick, this is a follow-up to the last 2 times that I presented. The first was the proposed budget for EMS. And today, the second was to answer and describe the decision-making process from a group that's involved with that, known as the Data-Driven Focus Group. What I'm here today is to present an update to that proposed budget. And as you see here, that update had me reconsider and look back based on some of the letters and some of the correspondence associated with the proposed budget, particularly the letter that Mayor Brown wrote with the City of Largo, involving their Unit 38. And what you see when it's presented as a budget item is the proposed adds to the system. What you don't see are the many years that it takes for an item to get there. In the case of Largo, we've been dealing with Chief Pittman, their fire chief, and his staff for at least 3 or more years in developing alternative strategies to try to avoid adding capacity into the system. And it's not a new component. 2 years ago, when we presented Largo 40, that's the unit by the West High Point area, after 2 or 3 years of efforts of working with the high call locations along the 49th Street corridor, we met sort of diminishing returns and finally had to recommend that we add seats to that location. And Largo 38 is a similar situation. The letter that was written sort of reminded us how often and how much we've been working to try to do everything possible with 38 to avoid. And the fire chief's position is really difficult in that they are charged with providing really high levels of service, both in the world of fire and in the world of EMS, but at the same time, being fiscally responsible to the taxpayers. And so when I looked at it, we are now proposing that 38 be funded, and consistent with what we've done in the past with funding units when there was some concern about funding. We're proposing that we add a seat to 38, 50% of that seat in next fiscal year, which is about $286,000. And then in the following fiscal year, fund that completely for a total of $571,352. Next slide, please. Again, what you don't see in the previous budget proposal are all the multitude of units that are attempting to be adjusted. We've got such programs happening in Seminole and Safety Harbor and Clearwater, Largo, Pinellas Suncoast, Lellman, the list goes on. But by the time it reaches you, it's been through all of that and it's kind of met its diminishing return. So this is what it looks like in the proposed budget by adding Largo 38, 1 seat over the course of 2 years. It's still not a pretty picture. I understand that. But we think in terms of the department, there might be some things that we can do, not only on the expenditure side, but perhaps on the revenue side as well. So we're trying to adjust the slope of both curves. I can't promise you that we'll be successful. I can promise you that we'll be certainly trying as hard as we can. Next slide, please. And then finally, here's the numbers behind the support of that. You know, in the case of Largo, not only for this past year, but for several years in a row, they've not only met, but they've exceeded the requirement. And we're proposing they move from the existing staffing of B, which generally funds a single seat. But when it exceeds that, when it gets to 11 calls per day, and they track at 13.7 calls per day, they clearly qualify. And so I'm here to recommend and support that seat be added into the budget process. And really, that's my presentation, and I'll stand ready to answer any questions that I might.
Keep that slide up, Brian.
Oh, sorry, sir. Give me one moment.
Yeah, commissioners, this process that they've used, which obviously predates me, has been very, very successful. They've used it, it's been in place now for about 5 years. And there was a lot of calls generated as a result of this. I talked to many city managers with different perspectives on this, but what it really pointed out are some gaps within the definitions of the ordinance that we have. For instance, you see in Largo, it's 13, it's right in the middle of 11 to 15 calls. What it doesn't tell you in a definitive way is what happens when you get to 10.1. Do you round up? Do you continue to work? Well, our process has been to try to work and see if we can keep from adding to what will at a certain point cause us to increase the levy. And so, but it's not defined within the ordinance. And so this is an area where I think that we can work with the fire chiefs. We also have the issue of growth management and priority dispatch. These are new things that they've been working on informally, and it has been very collaborative. There's not one city manager that I talked to that didn't say that Jim and his team have worked extremely cooperative with the fire chiefs in the way in which we've approached this. I do think the data-driven focus group, they really bring a lot to that table, and it is a collaborative process. But there's some gaps in that I think we can work on and refine. To the point of Palm Harbor, for instance, they're at 15.4. Again, it's defined as, does that keep you at a level C, or Do you round up, like in school when you got you went to a 0.5 and you round up? It's not defined. And so I think there's additional opportunity for Jim and his team to work with Palm Harbor to see if there's other things we can do, and then put this on the table for discussion with all the city managers and with the fire chiefs, and see if we can bring back something that I think would address some of the gaps or lack of definition within the existing structure. So that is our recommendation. I appreciate all the comments. We think this is an area where we can cooperatively or can continue the cooperative relationship and define this for future consideration.
Commissioner Long.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is for Jim, and I apologize, Jim. I cannot see if you are still here with us. Hopefully you are. But in a call that I had with one of the fire guys last week in preparation for this meeting today, there was some information that was shared with me that I found, I didn't react much, but I found it just absolutely contrary to what I had been told or was thinking. And when I asked the question about, well, I understand everything that you've just shared with me, but my question is, why are you so reluctant to use mutual aid or on priority dispatch, reach out to another department and let them help you? And the response I got was because they don't want another department rolling up to their citizens on a call because they are currently tied up on a call and getting there 10, 15 minutes late. And so I was under the impression that we didn't have those kind of delays when we were implementing mutual aid. And I wonder if you could speak to that, or priority dispatch as well. Could you speak to that, Jim?
I'll try to in as short a time period as I'm allowed. Really two separate issues. The priority dispatch issue I'll set aside a little bit. But in general, although there might be some exceptions that we look at, in general, when you dial 911 and you have a medical emergency, what is sent to your location is the closest unit that's known as a medic or a rescue or an ambulance type unit. And in addition, a Sunstar ambulance. And that's true whether the unit is owned and managed by Palm Harbor or Seminole or so throughout the county, when you dial 911 and you're having a heart attack, you will get the closest unit to respond. Now, having said that, there's some challenges associated with the way the system actually operates. There's a concept within the dispatching system known as run cards. Yeah. Each geographic area has a run card associated, which sort of defines which is the closest unit by not only authority and agency, but also response time. And all day, every day, we're working to improve that system. But as a general concept, in EMS, you get the closest unit. It's slightly different when you talk about a fire emergency, when you dial and your house is on fire. In general, I think you get the closest unit, but because it's a different type of response with a structural response, you need a fire truck and 2 fire trucks and 3 fire trucks. You need a squad truck, a district. So you need a collection of units. And sometimes where they come from is very difficult to understand. Now, in terms of priority dispatch is an old concept that's been proven and run throughout the United States very, very successfully. We began using it many years ago, very slightly with skilled nursing facilities, but we accelerated that to include agencies that participate in what we're calling growth management, but priority dispatch is just a part of that. And those now 6 agencies allowed certain types of calls, a non-emergency, typically someone who's fallen and really didn't need to be resuscitated, but perhaps maybe needed to arrive to the hospital, but was at an attended nursing facility, for instance. The concept was that, well, we're pretty confident that we know what's going on, and so let's send the ambulance, and rather than send the closest emergency medic truck, we'll send the ambulance because it's generally likely they're not needed to be on that call. And that's what priority dispatch and the agencies that implemented that about a year maybe a little over a year ago, year and a half ago, have had tremendous success with that. The city of Largo saw a reduction in concurrent calls. That's when the primary response unit is out on this non-emergency call when an actual emergency call comes in and they can't respond to it because they're on this other call. And we call that concurrent calls. We saw a 73% reduction in Largo when they implemented priority dispatch. We saw a similar reduction in the city of Clearwater and in Lellman and in Safety Harbor. Across the board, we saw what we expected we would see in terms of implementing priority dispatch.
Thank you so much. You've answered my question. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, any other questions? Yes, Commissioner Eggers.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I think just to put things in perspective, this topic of conversation was not on our agenda this month to discuss. I had a department, a district contact me about a communication that the DDFG recommended to fund but defer these 3 positions. So in other words, these are the 3, and again, I may have got the terms wrong, but they recommended these 3 to be advanced. And the group, the staff had decided not to fund any of the 3. And it was only on the funding issue that I came forward. Again, I want to remind people of that because I'm not trying to change a system. That comes from our participants, from our chiefs, from our staff working together on tweaking the system, because overall everybody's pretty happy with the way the system is working. So again, just for perspective on that. And so again, I discussed it last week and the comment was made, well, if one of them gets funded, all 3 should get funded, or they probably shouldn't happen. So obviously things have happened between last week and this week. I appreciate that. But I think it's going to be very important that at least in the one case that they had an understanding that the DDFG, the data focus group, had come up with Palm Harbor 65's request, and just because of a lack of funding, it wasn't. So I think it's going to be real important that you make sure that we sit down and communicate clearly what happened in that process, because again, they were directed to do what they did, which is to come to me to talk about the funding issue. So I just want to make sure that we're responding appropriately and we're responding directly. And the other thing I just wanted to say is that throughout this process and talking to city managers myself and to some other chiefs, it's apparent that the term growth management, which is I think there's 3 or 4 components to that perhaps we need to look at that, and not we, the commission, but you all need to continue looking at that as a requirement of funding from this EMS fund or not. It's not currently that way. I mean, I think the city of St. Petersburg, for instance, is not a growth management city or district for whatever reasons. I've heard different reasons. I know Palm Harbor is not a growth district or growth management district. So if those are important concepts, maybe we need to take a look at that in that discussion with the chiefs as to how do we get a plan together to get folks moving in that direction, because that seems to be something that's kind of overriding or underwriting or whatever, any of the conversations and discussions about who should get the funding and who shouldn't get the funding. And in this department, clearly they validated it they even applied in 2018, and a couple of other departments got it. So they came back in 2019 and thought that they had lined up, and then the funding issue came up. So I think clarity is important. I think reviewing the system's important. Tweaking it to make it a little better is important. Listening to them and having good communication. But again, for perspective, it started with, this is a funding issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
Well, if it's concurrence, commissioners, then we'll bring a budget to you that'll reflect the discussion today and the recommendations that were brought forward. We also have one additional presentation, and that is there was a question regarding the capital funding and that process. And so Jackie Trainer is on the line, and she will provide another brief presentation regarding the process that we've used.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Jackie Trainer with the Office of Management and Budget. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Brought up my presentation. So this morning we're going to talk about the Penny community projects, partially what was asked about at last week's meeting. And you can go to the next slide. So our budget strategy this year was to at least try to fund the projects that were on that original 2017 published list for Penny 4. These requests were submitted during the 2017 Penny Education campaign. So it was a wish list, so to speak. But we wanted to at least build in the design dollars on those projects so we could get a better idea of what's really needed and how much it would cost. It really wouldn't be prudent to build in millions of dollars on a project for a request that was entered as kind of like a wish list back in 2017 without some further vetting on the scope and estimated costs. But again, we at least wanted to build in the design so we could start looking at that again. Just a reminder that the first year of the plan, in this case, fiscal year 21, is part of the approved budget, so it must be balanced. The out years are a plan, and we review and update that each year. We have to update our revenue projections each year, review the current plan, look at new requests that might come in. We may need to reprioritize projects that are already in the plan. But really, it's a balancing act between the needs and the available funding. You can go to the next slide, Brian. Thank you. These were the community projects that were on the 2017 list. It was on page 5 of that list, and we'll come back to these in a minute. But what I wanted to call out is the note that's at the top of each page in that 2017 list, where again we were trying to address the need to balance needs with available funding. And you'll see in there that we said that this is subject to change because the priorities and needs as identified by the community may change over the 13-year span between today, which was 2017, and the end of Penny 4 in 2030. Next slide. So recently we have defined community projects as those that are brought forward by a community agency. And our assistants to the administrator positions have been a real help with this as being a liaison and a representative for our community agencies. The current requests and projects were submitted by those community agencies, again, back in 2017, and then recently were submitted into our portfolio management process by the representing department, meaning the department that would end up managing these projects. So it would be Parks and Conservation Resources or Real Estate Management. Going forward, these requests, the assistants to the administrator will enter these in our system on behalf of the community partner and then also working with our managing department. Next slide, please. These are the community projects that were on that 2017 list. And so as you can see, for this budget year and the 21 through 26 CIP plan, they have all been programmed in for the design. So you can see the East Lake Library Phase 2, it's scheduled to start design in 26, the Palm Harbor Rec Center, design in 23, the Lealman Rec Center, we had completed that early and now have the Lealman Exchange. Tierra Verde Community Center, design in 22, Seminole Rec Facilities, design in 23, High Point Rec Facilities next year. And excuse me, the partner facilities capital projects, those leases have been amended to identify that the county would be responsible for the capital refresh. And the example there was the Palm Harbor Library roof. The next slide. So some of the projects that were submitted but were not on the 2017 list, they stay in our system as requests considered on hold for future consideration. And so as you can probably imagine, it's not just these community projects, but we have other projects that have been submitted that weren't on that list that we just can't fund right now, but want to keep them on our radar as considered in the future. And so each year we would review these and readdress any priority needs. And so I keep going back to the balancing the prioritized needs and the available funding. And the next slide. So I wanted to address the some of the questions from last week about the difference between the 6-year CIP versus our approved penny, which is for 10 years. So last year's plan, 20 through 25, 6-year plan, those community projects were not included in that plan. What was shared with the board in December, and it was actually one of the attachments, and you may recall it was a huge spreadsheet. And what was shown in green and white on that spreadsheet was the approved 20 through 25 plan. And what was shown in the gray areas was really a concept of the 10-year penny plan. Those were not approved projects. Those were all the requests that were submitted. And as we all know, there's many more requests than we have available funding. All of the community projects at that time were in the gray shaded area. Fast forward to this year, and as we just discussed, in the 21 through 26 CIP, it does include design for those community projects that were on the 2017 list. So in next year's process, we will look at our projections. We've already made some assumptions associated with the COVID-19 impacts that our penny is going to decrease by about 6% in that 10-year time frame. Again, that's compared to our 2017 projections. But we will have to update our projections and look at our priorities, maybe consider new requests, maybe consider moving things out that are already in the plan. But it really is, again, a balancing act between the available funding and the priorities.
And I wanted Jackie to walk through this with you for a couple of reasons. One, there was nothing removed from the plan. The question is whether it's in the 6-year window or is it on the list that for future consideration. And then the reality that we have COVID impacts. Now that may change. You know, our sales tax may recover. We'll do new projections each and every year about how we're doing financially within the penny for Pinellas funding, which is what's used for these capital projects. But we're gonna, you know, as a project right now, not just on the community side, but on all the other infrastructure side, roads, drainage, all the different things that are not on this list, but are capital needs as the reason that the citizens of the county approved this, that we're gonna have to find judicious ways of managing within the funding that we have. So we hear the concern and the needs, particularly with East Lake Recreation. We've heard that. We've asked that Nancy's going to work with them to resubmit their projects next year. And we're going to consider those, but we got to consider it in context of all of the different priorities that we have. It is not lost. It's still there. But that's a balancing act that we're going to have to bring to you each year as part of our planning process.
Questions? Okay.
Commissioners, that's all I've got for today.
Really? Oh, okay. Commissioner Long, you have something.
Oh, yes, I did. So are we at the end, Madam Chair, where I can just give a brief overview of the Maroney Foundation?
Yes, except I have well, I can do it after yours.
Well, whatever you prefer. You're the chair. I'm happy to. Go
You're
ahead.
actually on the agenda, so you go ahead.
Well, okay, thank you very much. So I will be brief, everyone, because I'm not in a position just today to share with you the report. But as you know, we implemented a pilot project to establish a mental health program for our first responders and law enforcement personnel. It took us a couple of months to dot the I's and cross the T's and put all the criteria in place, etc. And we have been moving forward from the 1st of April until now. So this report is really the status of where we were at the end of July. So I'll have another updated report at the end of this month, which is really in just a few days. That said, it has been a tremendous success. Not that we think there wasn't a need out there, but keep in mind when we put this in place in February or agreed to do it, a lot of things changed in just the next month or two. And as a result of the stressors and the pressures that our law enforcement and first responder people have been under, the program has really just kicked off to the point where here we are now at the end of this month. We have about one more month that we can afford to continue it. So in having a in-depth conversation with the sheriff, and he has asked for additional data, which I am preparing to send to him, but I thought since the timing was so close to the end of the month, I'd wait until the end of the month, or the 1st of September, to get it all over to him. We're working on a strategy about how on earth do we move forward and keep the continuity of care for these patients in place that need the help so critically. And we have interesting to see the breakdown in the demographics, because the folks that are using it are from all the different police agencies, from Sunstar, from the fire side as well, and several of their spouses and or children. So we have put a cap now on the ability to take in any further patients until we have a real strategy in place. And you know, in the given the pandemic and the economic downturn, not to mention, oh yeah, we're in the midst of a huge re-election campaign from the national level on down, it seems pretty implausible that we would be able to move forward with an event that had 500 plus people in a room around tables of 10, where you can barely walk between tables. There are so many people. And so we're rethinking our strategy and possibly going to make an announcement very soon that we will be postponing the annual event for 1 year while we work on getting the pandemic under control, getting the virus under control, and seeing where we are. But we do want to put in place a strategy that enables us to keep the program going, because hopefully you will all agree with me that after the many years of public service and how much this program meant to Commissioner Maroney, this is something I think that he must be looking down on and being very, very, very proud of. So I hope you will agree with me that this was a great signature issue. We'd like to keep it going from 1 year to the next and ensure that we're able to continue for a long time to come. So that's kind of I mean, I can go on about it, but I know we're at the end of our meeting, and there are probably other folks that want to speak, but I did think that because you were also personally invested in working with Commissioner Maroney, it was appropriate to give you this very brief overview. Thanks.
Well, thank you. We look forward to the next event, whenever it might be. That was always a lot of fun. I'm sorry, I think I jumped too quickly from the last issue, and Commissioner Eggers would like to say something. Yeah, Commissioner Eggers.
You're on mute.
You're muted, sir. Sorry.
We had to say that at least once, Dave.
I know. I thought I was going to get through the whole meeting without it. Sorry about that. And I forgot to get my hand up in time. So just real quickly, I did want to comment. Barry made a comment about Nancy McKibben, and just a plug again to the assistant to the county administrator positions that were created. There was lots of good reasons, and those things are unfolding. I think that was a really good thing that we've done, and I really expect her to be working closely, in her case, with the folks up in North County to bring their projects forward for either consideration or reconsideration. So really looking forward to that. And I know that there are other folks in the other parts of the county working with the unincorporated folks as well. So that's important. The other thing is that there was some comments made earlier this meeting about having maybe an environmental land presentation, maybe putting it on the agenda somewhere. I think it's a good idea. I know we have had that discussion. It has been out there once for us to look at. Probably wouldn't hurt any of us to look back through it again to see the kinds of projects that are on that list. But at the same time, it seems to have gotten people's attention a little bit. So maybe the next time there'll be more folks engaged in that discussion. So I really like to see that somewhere in the next month or so, just to, or maybe month and a half, get us through the budget stuff, but to take a look at that again, kind of giving us an update on where things are and what the ask might be for this year's budget on that environmental lands, or next year's. And then the final thing was just a comment, Barry, if you could, just on your overall philosophy about borrowing money from one of our funds to advance projects in the penny against future penny funding. Just, and again, I don't know that you have anything in mind yet, but the flexibility that we might have, and I'm not talking about Palm Harbor projects, I'm just talking about in general, advancing projects maybe before we actually have penny funds to pay for it in that year. Thank you, and that's all I had, Madam Chair.
Sure. And commissioners, you've done this before, and so this is not new, but we are looking, but we really want to get hard numbers down. You know, a wish list doesn't necessarily, equate design, and we want to make sure it's the minimum necessary to meet the public need and be judicious with the tax dollars. So as we refine that and we see where projects can advance, if we need to, for instance, use our solid waste fund to in essence loan to where we can do more projects up front, and then as money comes in from the penny, at least for a portion of those dollars, pay that back, which we have to, obviously, because it's an enterprise fund. So we would do that. And so that is something we're looking at as part of our overall strategy. As some of these design issues are materialized, it'll give us a better idea of how we should approach that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barry.
Yeah, I wanted to comment. I think the having the little presentation on the conservation lands is great. I think some of the people that called in today would expect us to be identifying individual parcels that we're looking at buying, and I think that would be a bad idea. Just to let, I mean, I don't want to give people the impression that we're going to be giving them a list of what we'd like to buy so that the people that are selling it can double the price.
Great point, Madam
Chair. Hard enough to negotiate in public. Commissioner Welch.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Had a question on the master list draft of penny projects for the next 10 years. Has that been adjusted at all for the decrease in revenues, or are these just the requested amounts?
Well, we have these projects within the overall funding. We're only funding the amount that we project based upon this year. What that really means is though we're funding less this year than what we would have because we have less money coming in, which will over the 10-year period impact us because we won't be able to do as many projects. But then we'll make those adjustments as we go along, because next year then we'll have a better idea of the impact long-term on our sales tax, and then we'll be able to adjust it accordingly. Right now, we're looking overall at a 6%, but again, that's based upon a lot of assumptions.
And that's baked into this spreadsheet?
It's baked into next year's funding of what we project that will be available in hard dollars from the penny to be able to fund.
Well, since this is one of my last times looking at this, and I know that makes Charlie Justice very sad, it's good to see
all of us very sad.
It's good to see 62nd Street on here. We've talked about 62nd Avenue between 34th and 49th. We talked about that a lot. A lot of good projects on here, but you all know where I'm going. 22nd Avenue is on here. But Barry, I want to chat with you later about what that's comprised of, because it's only 900,000 at this point. So I want to get some details on what that actually includes.
I'll get with staff and we'll follow up with you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Justice.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I thought about bringing this up earlier when we were talking about Douglas land in Dunedin, but something I think kind of got lost in public conversation that we should be really proud of is that August 1st, our Parks Department opened up the expanded Wall Springs Park. And maybe a lot of people in the public don't know that was a 125-acre addition to our Parks and Rec portfolio. And the project already earned the award for Project of the Year for the American Public Works Association for preservation and expansion of parks and preservation, environment, safety. So I just want to thank our staff that's continually out there doing that kind of work, and make sure that the public knows that we did add 125 acres to our parklands, which I think is really, really important stuff. So just wanted to share that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
No, thank you. So I had two things I needed to bring up. One of them is that we need another commissioner appointed to the canvassing board for the November election, because I can't do it. And Commissioner Seal has volunteered. Did you want to say something, or are you just volunteering? Okay. So we need to, I guess the commission needs to approve the appointment.
So
right?
moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Welch, second from Commissioner Justice. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you, Commissioner Seal, for volunteering. That's a lot of hours. Commissioner Eggers.
Yeah, and just, you know, I think our county attorney, excuse me, always cautions us about getting involved in any way in elections, and so that it kind of keeps you from serving. And I think it was February of a year and a half ago that I said I would help somebody that had just gotten elected just on something. And so fast forward to today, they have an election in November. So it really excludes me from being able to do it for something it was so innocuous. It was so long ago, nobody could possibly remember, but it does exclude us from that. And I'm really sorry I can't help out because it really was what I intended to do. But anyway.
Yeah, me too. I'm really sorry I can't help out.
Sorry. I wanted to mention also that former Commissioner Latvella is going to act as an alternate, and I'm sure she'll get some hours in. Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just going to comment, this was a bit of an odd year for all of you, because keep in mind, we had anticipated having a ballot question on the ballot in November, which would have disqualified all 7 of you. So very early on, I think all 7 of you thought you would be disqualified. And of course, that only changed back when you decided not to pursue that earlier this year after the onset of COVID. So yeah, you know, Commissioner Seal was available, and as the chair alluded to, what I'll be doing now is going to the chief judge of our circuit, because to appoint a non-commissioner, that's the step that we have to take. And just as a further update for those of you, I think all of whom have served on the canvassing board, obviously we also have a supervisor of elections who has opposition in November, so we will also be asking the chief judge for a substitute member for her. So, and that is going to be Herb Polson, who many of you have probably met. He's a former St. Petersburg City Council member, and he has served on the canvassing board. So those will be the 2 members that we're asking the chief judge to appoint.
Okay, thank you. The other thing I had was Brian Loack informed my office, I don't know if he informed the rest of you, that there is a regional affordable housing advisory board that I didn't even know existed, that in the last legislature, there was something passed that said that we have to have a county commissioner on that board. It meets theoretically quarterly. Right now it hasn't met in quite a while, and there are no meetings scheduled, but we need to appoint somebody, and I would be glad to do that, especially since there are no projected meetings yet. But I'd be glad to do that till the end of the year, and we can get some information to all of you about what it entails before next year, so you know whether you want to volunteer or not. It does involve some travel out of town around the region. So anyway, I'd be glad to volunteer to do that. At least
move approval of that.
Second.
All right, thank you. We have a motion from Commissioner Eggers, second from Commissioner Long. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Raise your hand there. Okay, and does anybody else have anything else? If not, have a nice day.
Thank you.
Next week.
Stay healthy.